Chapter 151. At this time, Reed, who had been typing on the keyboard and taciturn, intervened and said, "Actually, Tony has another important reason for inviting you. Tony once said that during the last monster fight, the theme song of the Angry Punch suddenly resounded through all Broadway devices with audio. Including my GWIS." Tony also looked directly at Sumo seriously. "I should have thought of making robots like GLOS and the projection equipment you asked me for. Sumo, you have a more powerful artificial intelligence system than GWIS. I hope it can help us." In the face of Tony and Reed's desperate desire, Sumo touched his chin and responded without thinking, "Well, Alice comes out." Sumo didn't let Alice break Tony's defense line directly, but let the watch project directly. "It's time for me to stretch out my hand." Alice could hear everything clearly, and laughed triumphantly. "Shaipai, take a look." Sumo patted the edge of the projection lightly, and Alice shrank slightly as if feeling, and disappeared while humming. The virtual interface in front of Reed is a lot of mysterious data running through the entire board. "Tony, it seems that the name of the world's #1 intelligence is no longer GWIS, Sumo's artificial intelligence Alice is really." Reed was immersed in the data flow in front of him, and his whole brain was clear, and said excitedly. Alice Zylo made the genius scholar fall in love with it, and the unprecedented corner data indicated that Reed's book was read for nothing. "Okay, you don't need to emphasize that I can see it." The emotional and thinking skills that have just appeared have already let Tony know the gap between the two, which is no longer the category of virtual data. Just looking at Alice, Tony felt that the future of Ultron would be like this. Independent study and independent thinking. "Tony, I hope you can figure it out. If it's really what you think, then who will control it? President of the White House? SHIELD? Or is it yourself? Moreover, if you have independent thinking, what if you betray humans?" Sumo didn't mention that Alice did not hold any weapons in the eyes of others. In fact, they underestimated it too much. His remarks just wanted to persuade Tony not to create AO, and then another pot would be made. Tony and Reed were stunned. These words poured down like cold water from their heads, and their fiery excitement was suddenly quenched. "Advertisement this?" Reed hesitated. He hadn't thought of this factor before. Once Ultron was known of his control, Tony might not be able to keep it. The global hegemon has to kneel and sing to conquer in front of such a steel legion. Are the world's major trends going to be mad? This has involved political factors. The core of Ultron is to protect the safety of the Earth and cannot be modified. I will never let unscrupulous people reach out. Tony said solemnly. As for control, let's talk about it when it's done. Obviously, it's not a month to come out. Sumo waved his hand. It is impossible for such a maverick genius to be persuaded by a few words. Tony didn't regret it after the incident in Reunion 2, only to regret why he didn't take it seriously. This is the pride of genius. The event only wants to be in their own hands, and the super calculation power gives them the ability to look farther. Tony's original intention was right. The Iron Legion is undoubtedly able to purify the filth, but it will eventually be used by others. "Well, I don't think your mind is above it?" Tony asked suspiciously. "Well, I don't think your mind is above it?" Tony asked suspiciously. Later, Sumo told Tony about the Petro family and the life experience of the sons and daughters of Magneto. "So, Tony, you have to find out about this." "I'll find out. I don't want Magneto to come." Tony frowned. Magneto's power can completely destroy all his mark armor. Sumo shook his head helplessly, walked out of the laboratory with Tony, refused the invitation for dinner and left the villa alone. Tony stared blankly at the back of the car going away. After a long time without saying a word, he ordered GWIS a moment later, check all the orders involving arms during that time period, including the paper information. After a pause, he said, "There are also some imported carbon nanomaterials." Tony is doing two-handed preparations. One is to find out the facts, and the other is to develop non-metal armor, that is, anti-magnetic armor. He didn't know if things would turn into inaccessibility, and no one wanted to see such a scene. In the car, Alice asked curiously, "Since you are opposed to the construction of Ultron, why do you want me to assist from the side? Didn't Ultron come out so easily, didn't you feel it?" Sumo laughed. "Advertisement humph, that's not true." Alice Kide hesitated. Without the catalyst and foundation of the spiritual gem, it would be too difficult to create Ultron only by the evolution of the program. Su Mo didn't say much, just told Alice to monitor the progress. Before long, Su Mo came to the door of the police chief's house, and Gwen quickly came out and brought him in. After a brief introduction, Gwen's younger brothers and sisters happily accepted the collection of comics from Su Mo. Looking at the sons and daughters who were bought 2 or 3 times, Director George had no choice but to invite someone to take a seat. The family had a happy dinner while Su Mo was talking about funny things. George was a little unwilling to find Su Mo to fight for wine, but he was defeated soon. The father-in-law in the ear was full of joy and bitterness. The little white rabbit that he had raised for many years was suddenly arched, so George could only use alcohol to dissolve his sorrows, and constantly threatened Su Mo to be nice to his daughter as the last thing he could do. As night fell, George was dragged into the bedroom and fell asleep. The younger siblings made fun of Gwen and closed the door as if they were clever ghosts. The house is so lively. Su Mo closed the door and smiled. After turning around, he saw Gwen staring at him. The unmanned and secluded space gave Gwen great courage, and the backlog of emotions in the usual day broke out at this moment. He directly pulled Su Mo's hand onto the quilt, and he threw himself on the quilt. The clothes were torn and fluttered in the dim light. "Gwen, you are too wild." Su Mo said that the car was driving a little hurriedly and was not ready yet. "Laugh if you want, I won't lose to Lorna." Hiss. "Ugh." The old driver of Chu Mingshan almost threw the steering wheel out, and the artillery fired. When Gwen begged for mercy, Su Mo laughed. "At this time, I should be called a helper, better than anyone else." "Stop, you animal." With the sound of crunch opening the door, Su Mo pulled Gwen through any door to the room of Villa number 1 Lorna. In his days, there was another scream. "Any door is so easy to use, it's no wonder that Nobita always teleports to Shizuka's bathroom every time, really a fellow deist." Afterwards, Su Mo embraced right and left and thought truthfully. Chapter 152. In the early morning, the breeze blew across the thin white curtains of the bedroom, and a touch of sunlight swayed through the little madar-patterned curtains in the messy interior. A silver-grey shirt was thrown on the floor of the room, and the black silk stockings on the sofa were thrown, and he couldn't help but poke out a few strands of green hair from the curtain with the quilt. Lorna was awakened by the familiar and strange reaction of her body, and found that there was always a crunch sound in her ears, and her face became more crimson. With the swaying oars, the waves can't be pushed away, only the cool wind blows from the gaps in the windows. While eating breakfast, Su Mo glanced at Lorna and Gwen sitting face to face but invariably exuding a cold breath, making Jiali shudder as if she had fallen into an ice cave. "Hey, didn't you make a lot of fun last night, this woman?" Seeing that lightning strikes you and me on this table, Su Mo shook his head secretly. "Now that it's all a showdown, it's all going to go on." Gwen decided to officially move into Villa 1. Lorna pursed her lips and didn't object. Su Mo stood up and walked out of the living room. The beautiful and pleasing sound of the two women whispering came into sensitive ears. Woman, unpredictable. On the tree-lined path to Villa number 2, Su Mo stretched out, with a smug smile on the corner of his mouth. Morning exercises depend on what you are exercising. The right exercise is good for your physical and mental health. Needless to say, when Lorna walks into the Hero Academy, Jin and Storm Girl will definitely be stunned by their amazing temperament. Su Mo, Saitama woke up with a bald head. At this moment, Alice jumped out and said the news that throbbed Su Mo's heart. 390 Saitama wakes up? After Saitama played with Odin the last time he used more power than in the comics, he fell asleep due to loss of strength. The body and spirit have always been healthy, but the consciousness has been in a deep sleep, making people confused. Su Mo once wondered if it was because the limiter was reshaped. He quickly ran into Villa number 2 and saw a bald man in pajamas brushing his teeth and washing his face. Even if the water hasn't been dripped for nearly half a month, Saitama, who has not yet entered the rice grains, still looks like an elite, his face still looks like a salted fish. "Yo, Su Mo." Saitama greeted as he wiped his face vigorously. Su Mo looked at this state of being in good condition, and said in general, "Well, it's good to wake up, but you have slept for a long time. If you are not breathing, I am going to cremate you." Saitama can be said to be the biggest trump card in his hand, and he can frighten the four parties by fighting with the gods. For example, the current military and SHIELD have discovered that Saitama hasn't appeared recently, and their hearts are starting to stir secretly. Lauren's father had talked with him at the opening ceremony of the Hero Academy for a while, and repeatedly hinted that the military is now healed and the scars have forgotten to hurt. Judging from the actions of the sentry robot and the military that I saw yesterday, mutants have once again become a thorn in the eye and a thorn in the flesh of some people. He thinks of the sentry's secret service in the talents and can guess one or two. If Saitama reappeared now, he would surely be more frightened than anyone else. Sika, I don't know why I slept like this, damn it hasn't played games for a long time. Saitama hurriedly finished eating and took out the gamepad to fight against Jin Wuyan who hadn't gone out yet. Sumo, I feel his breath is a bit abnormal. Alice said strangely. It seems to be very weak, completely incomparable with before. Advertisement Jiluji also answered at this time, yes, when I checked this morning, I found that the teacher's physique had dropped a lot, almost no different from ordinary people. Saitama has become an ordinary person? How is this possible? After Sumo heard the words, he looked at Saitama who was agitated, and secretly said, the appearance doesn't seem to have changed at all. It's bald. With this heavy question, Sumo walked behind Saitama, clenched a fist and hit his shoulder with a little stronger force. Snapped. Oh, it hurts, Sumo, what do you beat me for? This is at a critical juncture. Saitama's expression was exactly the same as that of ordinary people, and was furious and dissatisfied. Immediately after rubbing the handle to control the twist, he continued to play the game but found that the character controlled by Jin Wuyan did not move at all. Saitama turned his head to look at Jin Mu with a ghostly expression and asked, Jin Mu, why doesn't it move anymore? Is the handle broken? Jin Mu did not respond, but looked directly at Saitama, his eyes full of shock. How? The room turned into a depressed atmosphere, and Saitama felt more and more strange, and his head banged slowly and slowly became sluggish. Slowly raised his hand into a fist, and the other hand touched his shoulder, the faint pain still existed. My power! My power! Saitama squeezed his fist tightly, his head lowered and whispered, no, how could it be possible? Sumo's face became ugly. Everyone was wondering why Saitama was so hurt by the fluttering punch. In the manga, Saitama did not change color even after being hit by the full force of the pineapple head, bleeding was just getting scratched by a cat. And this cat should be able to do it for a humorous and joyful plot arrangement. Let's try it on the lawn. Sumo frowned and pulled up a somewhat dazed Saitama to call Jin Mu to walk outside, and at the same time shielded and replaced the satellite reconnaissance footage. On the spacious lawn, the opposite of Saitama is not Sumo but gold and wood. Jin Wuyan asked with a black thread, why me? It's the world's fault for me to be bullied so honestly. It's okay, don't be afraid. Sumo patted his shoulder to show relief. Of course he would not push Jin Mu out rashly, because he already knew the result. First of all, Jin Mu acted first, and saw him fly out like an arrow from the string and punch Saitama with a confused look on his face. Saitama didn't even understand, and was shot off and rolled around on the lawn. Advertisement he can't see the trajectory of his fist at all. Is Jin Wuyan too strong or is he too weak? Not reconciled, Saitama got up angrily and threw a fist towards the golden wood in front of him. Upon seeing this, Jin Mu subconsciously exploded and transformed into a shield standing in front of him. At the same time, half of his body began to be spread by the red and black kago, and now he has entered the hijab sequence. Then came the fist wind, the sea of clouds swam, the waves were horrible, the breeze blew nothing. Jin Mu, who felt something was wrong, put Kazuko away and saw that Saitama's fist had already been slammed, but there was nothing, there was no strong wind at all. Powerless. Saitama doesn't know how to describe whether this vocabulary is in line with the present, and all he can feel is weakness. He couldn't shake the fist of the broken mountain and broken star in the past. Saitama really became an ordinary person. Jin Wuyan stepped forward and opened his mouth, not knowing how to comfort him. Suddenly becoming an ordinary person is something that all superpower people cannot accept. Jin Mu has never experienced that unspeakable emotion. Sigh. Saitama raised his head, his confused look was replaced by the fiery flames, and interrupted, it's okay, strength is formed by persisting in training, and now it's just starting over. As soon as the voice fell, Saitama squatted directly on one side of the lawn. Jin Wuyan said hesitantly, This is Saitama, he won't admit defeat. Sumo opened his mouth at this moment, his eyes flashed with light. Besides, this is not a bad thing. Although Saitama relied on extremely absurd methods to become as strong, but now in Marvel Universe, there are more absurd things that are not bad for Saitama. A cleaner who gets a green yo-yo can play with the 5 creation gods, what else is impossible? Sumo does not believe that Saitama has really lost his power, but believes in another possibility. When Saitama broke through the limiter, he felt the diversity of this universe and reshaped it in a real sense. Maybe become stronger, maybe stay the same. Sumo doesn't know what the future will look like, but he knows that the people in the comics will never maintain the original upper limit. Saitama has not shown all the strength in the comics. Maybe it stops here or is stronger. No one can tell. Marvel is too hard, and this is a universe different from the movie. Sumo looked at the distant Manhattan area, shook his head and left the matter behind, thinking about future plans. Saitama has lost his power. I'm afraid someone will try it out by then, so just chop it in one piece. Chapter 153. Bang! 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 Boss, open the door, hurry up. Early in the morning, the door of the bookstore was crowded with people, most of whom were teenagers, pushing the door and flapping desperately. No, what time is it? The bookstore owner picked up the alarm clock and looked at it. It was just past 6 o'clock and couldn't help but feel depressed. Since the Marvel company has gone viral, he has never slept until 7 o'clock, but he has made a lot of money. The boss opens the door and sells for the employees who have not yet arrived, and finally ends the exhausting work with the employees who have arrived. I haven't read it myself. The idle boss took out a few magazines from the back cabinet and read them on the backstage. This week, the comic magazine published only one new comic, which was exposed in the previous school ceremony. Magic and Forbidden Books catalog is about a city called Academy as the starting point, 80% of which are students, because superpower development is listed as part of the school curriculum, and students are the subjects of human science experiments. So this Academy city is full of capable people, and they compete with each other on superpower development every day. According to the different ability, it can be divided into 7 levels. The protagonist is called Shangzhou Dangma, who looks like an incompetent but not completely incompetent. His ability is to nullify all powers of abilities. He can only use this ability with his right hand, and he also named his own ability that can obliterate the miracle of God as a fantasy killer. And precisely because his right hand seemed to obliterate all the blessings of God, he led himself to live an unfortunate life. At the beginning, it was ranked 3rd among only 7 superpowers, level 5. Mikoto Misaka, the strongest electric shocker in Academy City, was wrapped around him, and he was greeted by a super electromagnetic cannon but was blocked by his right hand. On the second day, she found a nun on the balcony, who claimed to be Indixie. After that, Kamisha Toma will start the story with the magician who chased the nun. Ability again. Comic critic Edward frowned, and recent comics can be said to be dominated by bizarre abilities and emerge endlessly. The personality in My Hero Academia is based on the background of all human beings, and fate is slightly different from the magical spell, but it is still confusing. In the new issue of comics, historical figures and myths and legends appear to participate in the battle of the Holy Grail for the heroic spirits. This kind of inter-age and cross-system chaos makes the fans very addicted. Each of its heroic spirits has its own maverick abilities or treasures, and it is also related to the record that makes people think about it. In addition, this student-oriented cartoon is bound to set off a wave of fanatical pursuit of capable people among young people. Edward thoughtfully and boldly guessed about the relationship between the Hero Academia and the capable people, and quickly turned on Twitter. The rows of comments made his face slightly changed. Advertisement: why am I incapacitated? Don't cry, me too, touch the dog's head upstairs. I envy capable people. For the first time, I think it's great to be a mutant. Yes, the steel armor of Hanmer Industries rioted the other day, and the mutant heroes and Iron Man eliminated them. I'm on the scene, so handsome, there is a girl who can travel through space, and one can also emit lasers. Isn't the most handsome girl who has the same ability as Magneto? But the Guardian stance is the opposite of Magneto. I feel firm, persistent and eternal guardianship, isn't it the North Star in the symbol of love? Yes, it's called North Star. Miss Polaris. Edward kept sliding down the comments, almost all of the comments were more or less related to reality. Manga fans began to discuss less plots of comics, and their focus shifted to everything that happened in reality. Why? Why? It is because they can find the spiritual emotions needed by comics in reality. Any madness is based on one's own vagueness. Isn't chasing a star just chasing the perfect him in your heart? Similarly, reading comics can also stimulate the emotions you have. Everything that happens in reality makes manmi confused whether it is fantasy or reality. Their love for manga characters will be transferred to reality-related people, and Ermat's current approval rating has equaled that of Saitama, who has died down. Everything has changed. He put the coffee back on the table and muttered to himself, One Punch Man, Comic Publishing, My Hero Academy, Mutants, Academy City. Reality and Fantasy. Paper People and Real People. Company Chairman Su Mo and College President Charles. Advertisement. Edward followed his train of thought to find clearly visible but obscure traces, which were continuously connected into a large net, shrouded in Manhattan and spread over the United States. There was an inexplicable chill in my heart. This is a kind of change. With mutants as the center, people in the world will change their views and even become fanatical, and society will form opposition at that time. More exaggeration will lead to comic school and anti-comic school. Edward did not know that this kind of opposition is not a class opposition. Because this faction seems to be divided into young people and middle-aged and old people, it will actually evolve into rich and poor, high and low, and even. I hope it won't be the case. Edward didn't dare to think that when he thought that a mere comic company could control the world system, his whole body was terrified, cold sweat broke out, and he tremblingly picked up the coffee. The bitter aroma made him even more dazed. In the suburban villa, Su Mo is also browsing the online comments, and some intellectually disabled experts continue to make inconsequential remarks. And some comic critics, such as Edward, have seen fewer and fewer comic reviews recently. Recently, the United States, where the world is everywhere, has begun to quiet down a bit, and Alice of Skynet has also found some things wrong. For example, the President of the White House always enters a state of complete physical isolation during meetings. You must know that even if the phone was turned off, Alice still went in the background to run in the dark, and now no one is wearing an electronic device. It seems that not only Tony reacted, but they also began to be wary of such technological invasions. Even if they did so, they underestimated the strength of Skynet. It's really raining and wind blowing all over the building. It's been a long time since there was a lottery draw. Let's try a big wave. Su Mo stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows and looked at the rows of tall buildings in the distance. His strong eyesight allowed him to see the Trident logo on the Potomac River. It seemed that it was more appropriate to give a gift in the past, lest Tenton had nothing to do. The system seemed to feel Su Mo's wishes and made a humanized voice. Congratulations to host, Get. Black long hair appeared in the white light, slightly elongated golden pupils, pale skin, and blue jade-shaped earrings, which made people feel like a very sinister young man. However, Su Mo's attention is not here, but on the 14-year-old girl with a shoulder-length tawny hair, tawny pupils, and a school uniform holding a huge puppet bear. The girl opened her eyes to see this unfamiliar environment and she saw the slightly gloomy face next to her, her subconscious body crackling with lightning. Where is this? Realizing what turned over the puppet bear in his arms, he shouted with extreme dissatisfaction, Where is my croak? Chapter 154. Where is my wife? The girl fumbled for the puppet bear and couldn't help but wondered if she could not find the Kingway doll. Su Mo waved his hand and took out a cute green baby doll with big green eyes. Cough, here it is, Sister Pao. I'm Misaka Mikoto, not a gun sister. Misaka Mikoto jumped out of the black line on his forehead and shouted retortedly. After looking around, she left the young man and sat on the sofa by herself, then glanced at Jiali, who showed a small head outside, and hurried over. It's really hard to communicate. Su Mo knows that Sister Pao is aggressive, has a strong sense of justice, and has a boyish personality, but she has no patience and is very frank. When the trust point is full, the impression of Sister Cannon is brushed down, but the fixed favorability of the system will never change. Misaka Mikoto comes from before the beginning of the plot, when he had not met Kamisha Toma, the whole person was the characteristic of 060. It was another girl who had fun with Garly. Mr. Su Mo seems to be a little troubled. The young man on one side smiled and said with a slightly hoarse voice. Yes, Orochimaru. Su Mo focused his attention on Orochimaru, who looked slightly younger on the outside, exuding an icy atmosphere like a snake biting people. It is no wonder that Misaka Mikoto subconsciously resented that there was no one close to such an ice face. The current Orochimaru is also at the beginning of the plot. After being defeated by Uchiha Itachi, he inspired the idea of research on the Uchiha family, and is developing a strong interest in Uchiha Sasuke. At this time, Orochimaru only pursued the scientific secrets of immortality for his whole life, and it was not like being persuaded by a group of people in the future to help summon Hokage through the ages. At that time, not many people thought that Uncle Snake would still help others, shouting surprises. Sumo picked up the document he had prepared, and passed it over and said, "This is the information, please take a look." When Orochimaru started to read, his brain light and cleverness waved a blue projection. Villa number 2 is mapped out, and the living room is empty. Sumo wondered, where is Jinmu? Isn't it a holiday today? I'm talking with Saitama. His progress is really terrible. Alice switched her perspective and moved out of the lawn. The two afterimages were chasing after you, looking at the same speed. The growth rate is amazing, and at the same time all aspects have reached the Superman level, not even half a week. When Orochimaru heard his pupils stared at the projection interface, his eyes flickered and he wondered what he was thinking. Why is it so fast? Advertisement. Sumo raised his brow. Even if Saitama breaks through the limiter and reshapes his power, it will increase too quickly. It takes 3 years of hell-like exercise in the comics, but this seems to have changed too much. I guess the power of the bald head has not been lost at all, but it has become a seed, buried and turned into potential. Alice has projected all kinds of data that Saitama has been doing crazy sleepless exercises these days. It's like a glass shards directly broken into a cup and the added materials are polished to make a container with more water. Because the bottom is wider than before, the initial water volume easily overflows the bottom. But at the same time, the more water is poured in, the demand also increases. Alice said her guess, using powerful computing power to deduct it. According to the current rate, it will not take 3 years and only a few months to advance to the level before sleep. It is currently impossible to calculate how long it will take. And whether it will grow in the future is not known. Months? 3 years in the comics. There was so much difference, Sumo only felt a tingling scalp. There was so much difference, Sumo only felt a tingling scalp. At the same time, I also found that when Saitama is constantly exercising, his frequency is getting faster and faster. Sure enough, as previously guessed, at first 5 rounds, now it is more than 1,000 rounds. It can only be said that it is Saitama teacher, which is always surprising. Sumo was a little worried for him before, but he didn't expect that he would come right away in just a few days and nights. Really think too much. Jinmuken, who watched daily with Saitama, couldn't help but feel heartache. Poor little Jinmu might find that he was well tortured in a few days, and this time became the background board. Jinmu Xiao Angel is too miserable, the initial strength can actually be crushed by the street police, but as time progresses, even though he has become a hero, he is still a little weaker in the summoning. But adding this should catch up. Sumo touched the pill in his hand. This is the essence of Gaotsuki Chuan. At the same time, there are several pieces of golden wood in the warehouse that can be superimposed and upgraded. This way, the strength of golden wood will explode. I just don't know if I can be more beautiful after the transformation. The blood of Decooler has lost its allure to Jinmu. Do you still need Jinmu? Advertisement. I saw the black and red figures in the projection lag behind and continued to circle with Saitama. He said that if you need it, you can take it away. The grain store no longer attracts him and wants to change his taste. Alice covered her mouth with a humane smile. Change your taste? Not sweet enough? Sumo thought depressed, and then said to Orochimaru, in addition to the information on this, there are still some that are not recorded, I believe you are very interested. Oh, what is it? The light and shadow alone make me feel that the world is so wonderful for me. Orochimaru became excited after reading it. According to the information, the various abilities generated from the body are unprecedented in the world of Naruto. Among them, lifespan has been involved many times, and the members of the previous Shamrock Association were immortal for hundreds of years. Isn't this exactly what he wants? And this kind of strange projection is more convenient and more practical than Yahoo's free technique. This unknown world is like exuding sweet and greasy pastries waiting for him to taste. God, a real God, there are gods that appear as soon as the world is born. As Sumo's flat voice came into his ears, Orochimaru's heart was like a volcano that was about to erupt. An uncontrollable mood surfaced on his face, and the whole person was burned. God. The extreme end of his life. In his eyes, Senju Hashirama, known as the god of ninjas, is actually a ninja stronger than the average shadow, not a god. 0.5 Even he used various documents to unearth the secrets of the ancient ninja sect. Even the legendary sage of 6 paths that created the moon is not a god. Because according to various means, he is dead. Old and dead, what a god. Interesting, it's so interesting. Orochimaru couldn't help but spit out a long, forked tongue, his face full of joy. Finally Orochimaru left. Instead of going to Villa No. 2, he took the stone ghost mask given by Suemo and the vampire Lord de Cooler to Sokovia. There is a base of Hydra, an experimental base with complete equipment and advanced equipment, and various experimental materials can be obtained through its forces. He set a small goal, that is to discover the secret of de Cooler's immortality and the correct way to open the stone ghost mask. As for whether he will do some small actions with Suemo behind his back, let the backdoor format to find out. Chapter 155. After sending Orochimaru away with any door, Suemo saw Misaka Mikoto and Jiali planted in the study. He was still humming an unknown tune, with a weird smile. Suemo touched his chin and remembered that Sister Pao liked comics very much. She was a person who laughed as soon as she read the comics. Although I am rich, I would not buy comics because comics take up a lot of space and are heavy. I only take time to read magazines in the store. Suemo, is there a reasoning comic for the murder case in the secret room? Misaka Mikoto turned to see Suemo shyly and nervously, looking like a weak and helpless kitten. Secret chamber time. Secret chamber detective, is there any? Looking at the eagerly big eyes, the corners of Sumo's mouth twitched. There is no secret room time. Secret room detective, but there are comics of this type. Misaka Mikoto's eyes dimmed when he heard the previous sentence, but the fire of hope reignited behind. Su-24mo directly stopped a Terminator TX, and Suemo moved his brush in the dumbfounded eyes of Misaka Mikoto. The lifelike images of the flowing blood, the boy wearing glasses, the cursed mask, and the dark secret room leaped on the paper. Misaka Mikoto watched and became more immersed in it, and the exaggerated tricks and ghost legends in it made people frightened. The more this happened, the more she became intoxicated, her eyes gleaming and staring at the top page after page. After a while, the secret room murder case ended, and Suemo finally marked the name, Sneer of the Curse Mask. What else? Go ahead. Misaka Mikoto urged impatiently. This secret room murder comic is more exciting than she thought, and there must be more fascinating stories. Seeing this, Suemo said calmly, of course there is, I will ask someone to draw it. Subsequently, he directly added a comic title at the top, Detective Conan. Famous detective. Misaka Mikoto's eyes lit up, and he muttered to himself, the protagonist is Conan. Advertisement Terminator TX was drawing from scratch on the side. Misaka Mikoto moved a small chair and leaned on the side to watch. Misaka Mikoto decided to live here, but there are so many interesting comics, that he is reluctant to leave. Conan. Suemo looked at the comics that he was constantly drawing, thinking in his heart, although this comic has technology, it is actually not very practical or even a gadget in Marvel. But the drug APTX.4869 that turned Shinichi Kudo into a child Conan can be said to be an absolute black technology. The actual effect of the capsule-shaped appearance is to make the dead person no longer leave traces and no results can be detected, but the side effect is to restore the physiological function of the person to the developmental stage. This is simply one of the biggest bugs in comics. There is another natural disaster physique, of course, where Conan goes, where people are dead. Suemo decided to publish this comic after repeated considerations to see if he could get this kind of BT potion in the future. Soon it was lunchtime, and Ji Luosi, a natural assistant, cooked hot meals in the villas on both sides. As long as you follow the steps of the information, Ji Luosi is the most powerful chef in the world, and you can make any taste. 8 gates are different. As long as you follow the steps of the information, Ji Luosi is the most powerful chef in the world, and you can make any taste. 8 gates are different. Lorna and Gwen would both go home for lunch at noon. When they saw a tea-haired girl suddenly appeared on the table, her face turned black and he put Suemo aside. Suemo, how do you deal with junior high school students? Lorna asked. Immediately afterwards, Gwen furiously said, she is still a child, you are too livestock. Obviously, the appearance of Misaka Mikoto really shocked the two of them, and directly suspected that they had a secret. In fact, the two of them have long seen that Sumo is not a man who can be restrained by a woman. It's not a big deal to act like a baby on weekdays, but the more awkward it is, it will make people disgusted. This is something that both of them are afraid of. Anyway, the big people are like this now, there is more than one, after all, the two of Lorna did not see that there is a third. But today, a junior high school student ran out. Sumo secretly took wild food and brought it home? It seems that 14 is too young. Advertisement. Sumo's eyelids jumped when he heard this. He never expected that the two women would still be guessing the roots like this. He couldn't help but rub his forehead and said, "You haven't read today's comic magazine." "No, you have read this comic before, so you don't have any impression." After Sumo's reminder, Lorna and the two began to look at Misaka Mikoto, looking at the food. Their appearance, clothes, and hair color reminded them of a manga character, Misaka Mikoto. Now the comics have just been released, and the reputation of Sister Pao is not as loud as her previous life, and there is no future. The light that beats at your fingertips is my eternal belief. However, the emergence of a vivid cartoon character surprised the two of them. Sumo's stabbing indicates that his friend came to live for some time to 497 to dispel the doubts of the two. In the end, Lorna and Gwen found that they were getting along unexpectedly just a moment after they were seated. After all, the first episode was very strong when they appeared on the stage, and then a few people chattered into a group. Seeing this increasingly noisy atmosphere, Sumo slowly carried his meal as a crowd of melons, and from time to time served two girlfriends with food. When I caught it, I found that there was an extra bowl, which was Misaka Mikoto's bowl. Sumo curled his mouth and held it in the past, and the next moment Jiali's bowl was stretched out. Sumo caught them in a bad mood, but he ate to the end, causing several people to cover their mouths and laugh. After eating, Sumo said nothing but the bowl that Misaka Mikoto stretched over, "Wash the bowl by yourself." Sumo shook his head and went back to the study to sort out the lottery. In addition to Orochimaru, Misaka Mikoto, Takatsuki Izumi Yukaku, there are. Chapter 156. A knife handle and scabbard are white, and a simple knife floats in front of Sumo Hideo Yuan. One of the 21 jobs of the big sharp sword, is the saber owned by Zoro in One Piece. Sumo hasn't practiced the knife skills and put it on the decorative shelf. In the Marvel Universe, there is already Edmund Alloy, which can only be regarded as ordinary in comparison. In addition to some insignificant peripherals such as Gyutai and so on, there are also Yukin pills and smashing magic. Righteous Soul Maru, a pill that forces the soul out of the body. Shinigami in the Righteous Corpse can use it to separate from the Righteous Corpse, so that the Righteous Soul pill enters into the Righteous Corpse to temporarily move, and he can restore the Shinigami state. Sumo took this pill with a strange appearance, and thought secretly, maybe it can be used by Shinigami to summon characters in the future. With the equipment of shattering magic, the endless flow of strange power flowed through the body along the limbs, and the faint white light gathered in the hand. Smashing magic, the super high-ranking magic from the S-level wizard Kildas in Fairy Tail. The connection between the atoms of the material that can be contacted instantly shattered to pieces. Smash it, a very practical ability. Sumo tried it and there was no magic circle, even if the white light spreads arbitrarily, it can be gathered on the fist. While Sumo was testing his abilities, Orochimaru had already arrived at his destination. The Sokovia Hydra base is located in the wilderness, with little people in the surrounding area. This is the personal territory of Baron Strack. However, just last week, an elite unit was directly burned into coke. According to Bolivar's image, the attacker was from the Hero Academy, which left Baron Straker's heart lingering. He is now deeply uneasy. Choosing Northern Europe as a base was to keep a certain distance from Shield. After the defeat, the Hydra broke up and formed several forces that took root in different places. Pierce mixed into the interior and developed secretly, and now the results are remarkable, while the Japanese Viper is studying viruses and various poisonous night experiments and some other bosses. The Hydra just cut off one head and grows two heads just as it was shouting. As the Red Skull disappeared, it spread out and took root all over the world like a virus. Even they themselves can't guarantee whether there are other Hydra leaders who have not made contact. On weekdays, the video connection never comes to meet, except for emergency situations, and does not communicate much. Baron Strack was fortunate that when he went back to catch the mutant, Pierce sent him a message asking him to go back halfway, otherwise he would have to confess there. Strack, who was sitting in the office with his monocle, was hesitant to move out of Sokovia these days. What if the previous batch of Hero Academia people came to trouble them again? This steel fortress didn't bring him any sense of security at all. Combining the mutant's ability to control magnetism in the image would only be a bottomless hell of iron and steel. Strake strode towards the center of the base, and Dr. Lister was there as the person in charge of the human transformation experiment. Crunch! Dr. Lister will pack things now, we will leave here at night. Straker opened the door of the laboratory and walked to the old man with white hair and said eagerly. As time went by, he felt more and more nervous, especially now that there was always an icy breath permeating around. Yes, I'm going to prepare. Dr. Lister was making a strange noise with his back to Baron Straker. This made the Baron a little puzzled, and when he walked to the side of the experimental platform, he found that Dr. Lister was motionless, staring at him in horror. Doctor, what's wrong? The Baron asked a researcher who was working on the reagents anxiously. Did something happen to the experiment? Advertisement accidents? There are always accidents in experiments, depending on whether the risks and benefits are equal. The researcher's tone made the Baron a little disgusted, especially his eyes. Immediately afterwards, fierce crisis and fear poured into my heart, as the highest leader of the base seemed to be frozen. Who are you? I have never seen you. Dr. Lister's experiment involved high secrets. Every researcher and assistant were recruited through his examination. He had never seen the man in front of him. Baron Strack glanced around the people in the room, his pupils shrank into needles sharply, and then he realized that everyone's movements were stagnant. Actually, I thought you wouldn't be here before the sun went down, and it's just right to come now. The researcher stared at the Baron with narrow pupils and grinned. Police, Straker was about to shout, but he just blurted out a word. His whole body was like being tied up with an invisible steel cable. The shout to his lips was swallowed back, and the Baron finally knew that Dr. Lister and these people hadn't moved at all. This is a D-class ninjutsu hold-down technique, a basic ninjutsu that Genin also knows how to use, but the strength varies with the caster. A highly capable caster can restrain several opponents at the same time. The researcher put down the test tube in his hand and looked sideways at the Baron's mouth, explaining what he didn't understand. Ninjutsu? What the hell is that? Ninja? Could it be that Mrs. Viper, one of the leaders of Hydra, sent a ninja to assassinate him? What was the purpose? Without waiting for the Baron's question, the researcher leaned forward with a gentleman, and his pale face was extremely permeating. Without waiting for the Baron's question, the researcher leaned forward with a gentleman, and his pale face was extremely permeating. You can call me Orochimaru, my purpose is very simple, that is, this site belongs to me. Orochimaru issued an occupation declaration lightly, and went on to say, for unnecessary disputes, you'd better go out and announce who is the new owner now. Orochimaru sneaked into the space through an inconspicuous little snake, in his eyes as long as this position is enough, there are other uses. Don't, just kidding, this is absolutely impossible. The Baron whispered in a whisper, he was waiting for the monitoring room personnel to discover the abnormality, and then the well-equipped soldiers would attack and rescue him. Perhaps you are waiting for rescue because it is for surveillance. Orochimaru walked directly to the camera in the corner of the zenith, his pupils shone coldly. After a pause, he said, after the red, your cracking should be completed, right? As soon as the voice fell, a small red girl with Skynet Alice appeared on a projector in the laboratory. It is the artificial intelligence that Orochimaru applied for before leaving. Considering the experimental needs and monitoring, Suemo asked Alice to make an artificial intelligence similar to Jiwis and named it the Red Queen with a big wave. It has been completed, all the systems of the base have been controlled. The Red Queen without any human emotions directly projected the structure of the base. The Baron couldn't help feeling sad, so that the monitoring had been scrapped, and no one found out what was going on in the laboratory. Immediately afterwards, Orochimaru went out with a puff of white smoke in his shocked eyes, and then walked out swaggeringly. Only a few conversations outside, there was no movement. No one found out that he had been tuned up, and the crazy Straker kept making a mumbling sound without attracting outside attention. A black-grey python crawled slowly to his feet, making him shudder. Advertisement. Orochimaru walked in and smiled slightly, don't move rashly, the little guy may be a little hungry after eating too. Baron Straker almost fainted when he heard the words. No wonder the doctor didn't give a reminder when he saw him. Now I need you to surrender to me. The majestic ocean-like killing intent was coming towards their faces, everyone only felt the horror of being in hell and seeing their dying, their souls suddenly collapsed. Seeing everyone's spirit defeated by the illusion, Orochimaru nodded in satisfaction, walked to the console, took out a scroll, and opened it, pressing the word sealed on it. Untie. Faint white smoke rose, and a large bag and a mask appeared on the console. The cooler, who untied the knot and was twisted into a ball, showed a grey face, completely not caring about the current situation. He couldn't escape anyway and he was too lazy to resist. It's immortal anyway, forget it, go to sleep. Seeing the cooler closing his eyes and saying so, Orochimaru showed crazy eyes, and the corners of his mouth raised a cruel smile. The cooler couldn't help but shudder. He didn't expect Orochimaru to be completely different from Jin Wuyan. The latter is just to draw some blood, the former is of course for anatomy. Orochimaru picked up the stone ghost mask and there was an explanatory note with a comprehensive introduction and an unreleased original painting. Vampire, the man of the pillar, cats. Looking through all the masks involved in the second part of JoJo, Orochimaru tried to put the mask on his face and apply some blood. Click. The ghost face will pop out a few bone needles and pierce its Orochimaru's brain, and an inexplicable energy echoes in the brain. Orochimaru only felt unprecedented strength and, good jows, resilience burst out of his body, but also felt the desire for blood and the fear of sunlight. It's really great, this feeling. He took another bright ruby from his pocket, and it was particularly dazzling under a ray of sunlight. Even if it's not as good as Ichi gemstones, they are used as materials. Orochimaru cast a cold gaze on Decooler's body. The Lord of Vampires in Decooler, what if he wears a mask? No use or what? Ultimate creature? As cats in the manga has the resilience and lifespan like a god, Orochimaru is really not satisfied. He wants to mass-produce life forms that are even more terrifying than this, to reflect his value, and God is the experimental body that Orochimaru himself pursues. The secret of Uchiha's bloodline and the treasures of this world are simply boring. Orochimaru unlocked the hold technique, and several researchers began to gather around, and several scalpels emitted a cold light and swung them down at the cooler. Pouch! Ah! What are you going to do? Not long after, the cooler was dismembered and wailed. I'm helping you to become the ultimate life body. Orochimaru bowed his head to his ears and let out a demon whisper, then pulled off the stone ghost face and pressed a button on the cooler's face. There was a faint white light in the laboratory, and Orochimaru said calmly, after the red, record the entire process. Let's start the experiment. Chapter 157. Evening News. The stock price of DUM Group was plummeting but has stabilized. Please analyze the cause of this by experts. The main reason comes from the space experiment. Before the Fantastic Four guarding New York City was born, the investment was not rewarded and the investment was directly bet and lost, so it plummeted. After the appearance of the Fantastic Four, people can see that the value of them has picked up. But it is certain that this unexpected result cannot be replicated, so I am still not optimistic about the shares of DUM Group. A middle-aged white man talked non-stop on the TV station and analyzed the recent DUM Group incident. Then I switched several news about DUM. Suemo touched his chin, thinking that DUM wanted to be Dr. Doom. But he clearly saw that the blind girlfriend of the Stone Man had appeared at Tony's Sea View Villa party. I also feel that the plot of Dr. Doom has been turned over, perhaps after I met after the last hate war. It seems that his appearance has indeed set off a butterfly storm. But this has nothing to do with him. Suemo then switched channels and saw One Punch Man log on to the TV station. What's interesting is that there were advertisements for bald hair extension agents and white cloak uniforms in the period before and after. Where's Pow? Suemo, who was passing by the study, realized that Mikoto Misaka was not indoors, and couldn't help asking Gialli. I'm buying clothes, don't let me follow, will you buy some weird clothes? Gali replied with some dissatisfaction. She patted her shriveled belly and was still hungry. She took out a blue piece from the box next to her. Energy block. This is a new result of Tony's research and development after the development of the energy department. The mass production of arc energy reaction blocks can replace power transmission, starting in New York and entering the state of low energy consumption on a pilot basis. These boxes were given by Tony, and most of them were eaten by Gali. Suemo secretly said, "This is all you guessed right. Sister Pao has a hobby of pink childish underwear and children's loose-fitting pajamas." 767. Daily necessities are also fun for children painted with cartoons. In fact, this is normal, but the appearances of Sister Canon are all strong scenes, so I don't want others to know. Suemo, why did you call Mikoto a gun sister? Faced with such questions, Suemo smiled calmly, this is faith. Tisk. Golly couldn't help but flip through Byakugan. New York, the city that never sleeps, in the central shopping street. Misaka Mikoto, who wears a blue baby hat in order to avoid attracting attention, holds a big bag with all his favorite clothes. It is a pity that there is no such thing in this world. Suemo sent it, which made her a little annoyed. After all, she has always adhered to the personality traits of I don't allow anyone to be stronger than me, and she will eventually challenge Suemo. If you keep holding the guatai sent by Suemo, it's not easy to make a move. Worries linger in Misaka Mikoto's head. Going back. Misaka Mikoto looked at the sky late, and stood on the street holding the bag relaxedly, ready to call for a taxi. Bang! A big man fell from the smashed glass window on the first floor of a tall building on one side, and slammed it like a heavy rock on the cover of a passing car. The big guy smashed into it directly. This sudden accident made people unresponsive for a while, and the car was still rubbing the ground hard and making a harsh noise. The big guy got out of the car cover as if he were okay, and looked at the stopped pedestrians around and shouted, "Get out of here, it's not safe here." He is the Fantastic Four, the Golem. However, the opposite was true. Almost all people recognized the big stone-like body, which attracted more people to watch. Advertisement. It is the nature of people all over the world to eat, hug and watch the excitement, and the people are curious about what happened. Because the hero's recent activity is very high, they have a mentality of eating melons anyway. I don't think it's a big deal. Immediately on the first floor of the tall building, a strong man wearing a black windbreaker and a metal mask walked out of the gate. What is noticeable is that there are electric lights radiating from all over his body, and his whole body exudes an aura of self-prestige. The crackling screams caught Misaka Mikoto's attention. The stone man turned his head and asked the driver who got off to hide away. He rushed up and ran past the street light, broke it down, and threw it out. Dr. Doom, who had no time to dodge, was directly flew out and fell into the wall on one side. Ben, I didn't expect such a dull person to do me a big deal. Dr. Doom Victor Doom became angry because the group was almost bankrupt and began to retaliate against Reed in the Fantastic Four. It is because of the deviation of Reed's experiment that this situation occurs. But he was afraid of the unity power of the Fantastic Four, so he used a little trick when he did it. Thunderbolt Johnny was distracted by him with a heat-sensitive missile, and his classmate Reed was almost scrapped by him. Susan, who was now thrown into Reed's arms by his former girlfriend, got down even more than 2 or 3 times. Just as Dr. Doom was about to cut Reed directly and completely complete his revenge, the Golem, who had been threatened by his blind girlfriend's life, suddenly shot out halfway. Susan and Reed were blown down in one fell swoop, causing Dr. Doom to jump into a rage. The crashing gravel was directly pushed away by Doom. For the body that was covered with metal and harder than titanium alloy, this impact was simply tickling. Doom lost his eyes by this sudden power, and he only felt that he would be able to take over the whole world without the blocking of the Fantastic Four. Doom lost his eyes by this sudden power, and he only felt that he would be able to take over the whole world without the blocking of the Fantastic Four. Fortunately, I arrived in time. Dumb, you are committing a crime. The stone man with awkward words directly yelled at him. Criminal? Reed almost broke my company by this damn thing, and he actually took Susan away. As the saying goes, friends' wives must not be deceived. Dumo invested in space experiments with his kindness, but he did not expect that his classmates dug a corner and got green. Do you think he is angry? The cold breath filled the air, and Dum roared loudly, causing the people to shiver. The soul of 8 trigrams ignited directly. It turns out that the Fantastic Four still have such love and hatred, which is simply a dog blood drama at 8 o'clock in the evening. No, Susan doesn't belong to, said P. She has her own choice. A voice that made him look disgusting came from behind. It was Mr. Fantastic, who eased from the extremely low temperature. She belongs to me. Dumo looked back at Reed behind him and snorted coldly. He didn't know how he could steal his woman with a long rubber body. Enough, Dumo has time to look back now. Susan in a dark blue uniform of the Fantastic Four also rushed to persuade. As an ex-girlfriend, she doesn't want a conflict between her ex and the current one, and she doesn't want to make headlines tomorrow morning because of this. At this time, Thunderbolt Johnny threw the missile off in the sky and landed directly from the sky to one side, burning flames in his hands, and started fighting at any time without talking nonsense. Haha, looking back? Impossible, I am very satisfied with this now. I don't need a woman or wealth. Dumu opened his hands wide, as if embracing the world, deep and low voice slowly shouting through the metal mask, I want this world to feel destruction coming. As soon as the voice fell, Dumu's raised hands exploded with a fiery and cracking electric arc, and dazzling white lights flickered on the palms of his hands. Advertisement boom. The swift electric light suddenly turned into waves and shot out, directly blasting towards Reed. The speed of lightning made Reed unable to escape. The transparent light curtain suddenly appeared and directly blocked, and then Reed realized that the target was not him. The rubber-like ability had a strong endurance to electric current. A thick electric current burst out from the mouth of a tree, and went straight to the thunderbolt, and Johnny waved a burning flame without being weak. The fire was everywhere, the electric snake swam away, and the two violently collided, illuminating the entire block of night sky like a shining starlight flash. No one can stop me. Doom swung an electric whip whose current changed so sharply that he drew it directly at the stone man. The currents were drawn from the surrounding buildings and poured into Dumu's body. The terrifying energy caused him to explode continuously, and there was a little electric light hovering around him like Thor's reappearance. The electric snake bit the stone man who was beaten repeatedly and couldn't get close. Reed didn't dare to take a whip at this time. The high temperature attached to it made him spread out like a fire. All the fireballs slammed on him could only burn all the clothes on his body, causing Madara's spot full of charred black, and Dumu didn't even bother to dodge. Susan even controlled the force field one after another but couldn't resist the violent electric energy. For a time, Dumbu, who was absorbing the entire street's electricity, abused the fantastic force so that others could not help but retreat back and forth, covering their mouths to watch all this. This is the absorption of current. Misaka Mikoto felt a slightly turbulent faint light on his body, a little irritated. Those who can absorb electricity are almost her natural enemies, and Mikoto Misaka's abilities are mostly electricity. But the battlefield was in a one-sided state, and she could not sit idly by with a strong sense of justice. Misaka Mikoto's heart was stunned and walked step by step to the battlefield amidst the horror of passers-by. Hey, don't go, it's dangerous. Is this girl crazy? Who will stop believing her? The people on the road hurriedly issued advice, and a kind young man quickly rushed up to hold Misaka Mikoto. The raging heat wave rolled out of the battlefield. When the strong wind hit, a frog hat flew into the sky. You are Misaka Mikoto. The youth's pupils shrank sharply, and he shouted dumbfounded. Although Mobin only has 4 episodes and 1 issue, because of Sumo's hunger marketing last week, Manfan is tickling like crazy wanting to read it. In this way, it was even more popular, and its popularity directly exploded, and the characters inside were also impressive. Misaka Mikoto, ranked 3rd among the only 7 superpowers in Academy City, the strongest electric shocker in Academy City, codenamed Super Electromagnetic Cannon. This bunch of information jumped directly into the minds of young people. At this time, Misaka Mikoto took out a game coin and threw a black figure on the battlefield ahead. There was a sudden flash of flashing light between the tips of her right finger, and the moment the coin fell, she flicked. An orange beam of light reaching the sky, like the radiance of God, shines brightly into the hearts of young people. This is faith. Chapter 158. Against the wind and heat wave, Misaka Mikoto tossed the game coin vertically, clenched a fist with his right hand, and suddenly flashed lightning with his fingertips. After a short distance, the game coin fell straight down, and when it fell into the fist, it flicked vigorously. From the moment of release, the air suddenly swelled into a ring and exploded to both sides. The silver-grey game coins burst out at an initial speed of 3 times the speed of sound, and there was a buzzing sound when they crushed the air. The pulsating electric light rushes into the game coins like ocean currents, generating extremely high voltages to break down the air to form plasma. The driving force that turns into terror uses the principle of electromagnetic induction, and the magnetic field in space provides acceleration for its madness. The game coins in the supersonic state rubbed hot in the air, emitting orange-red light, like an orange meteor tearing the air. At the next moment of the eruption, the gust of wind carried an astonishing wave across the surface, and the cobweb-like cracks were poured out, and the nearest youth retreated several steps in the shock. The orange laser was overwhelmingly shattering all the obstacles along the way, directly attacking the tall shadows on the battlefield. You lose, the Fantastic Four. Dumo wielded a blue electric whip, his powerful electrical output made him invincible, and several electric currents kept scattered on the 4 of them. Fight, this created an opportunity for me. Reed saw the situation getting worse, and they couldn't wait for the current to run dry, and they gritted their teeth and shouted at the stone man. As a good friend of Reed, he could understand the meaning by just a glance at his eyes, and his heart was a little bit sharp, and the stone man rushed forward without saying a word. The cumbersome body rushed towards Dr. Doom like a rolling boulder. Looking at the stone man who flew past, Dr. Doom sneered disdainfully. At this moment, Susan, who was the first to feel the change in the magnetic field in space, didn't even look back. The cold hair exploded and subconsciously burst into a powerful force field, pulling the stone man to the side and flicking it aside. The stone man suddenly became stunned. What's the matter? So deplore your ex-boyfriend, you traitor. Susan used the force field to press Reed and Johnny to the ground, and he fell to the ground with him. It took less than 3 seconds for Susan to finish the above movements, before the three of them were surprised and confused. A beam of light across the bridge between heaven and earth blazed straight behind him towards Dr. Doom. Dr. Doom was wondering how the stone man deviated from the position and fell to the side. His eyes were flooded with orange lasers. This is inducement. At first, he used his huge size to attract his attention, and then he dodges the light beam that made him unavoidable at the moment of the moment. Extremely ridiculous. Dr. Doom couldn't help but sneered. With skin that was comparable to hard metal, he had never been afraid of anyone. Advertisement. As the laser got closer, the hair on the surface of Dr. Doom, who was holding the winning ticket, began to stand upside down. Before the dark road was bad, the orange meteor slammed into his fierce chamber. Bang! The deafening sound of collision blasted everyone's ears, and in everyone's stunned orange light beams flew upside down against Dr. Doom at an unparalleled speed and crashed into the building beside it. Rumble! The walls made of solid cement poured into them are like soy milk, fragile and torn apart in a burst of collapse, and the laser power is constantly venting its energy to Dr. Doom, and soon the laser gradually dissipates. From Misaka Mikoto, the solid concrete floor was dug into a deep gully to the end of the building. The entire dumb group building was torn in half by the orange meteor from the middle. In the shock of everyone, countless rubble rolled down, and the building became shaky and almost tilted. The crowd of onlookers immediately spread out, fearing that one would be crushed to death, and continued to eat melons in the distance. At that time, the youth had already started live broadcasting the name of Misaka Mikoto and the incident on the internet, and then it was viral. Invaded the network. Misaka Mikoto's game coins used for more than 50 meters will be burnt out due to frictional heat. Therefore, the maximum range of the super electromagnetic gun using game tokens as shells is only 50 meters. If you replace the game coins with other larger conductors, the power and range will be greatly improved. The power of the super electromagnetic gun lies in its explosive penetrating power, tearing all objects within the range, and the resulting explosion is just the remaining wave. The power of the super electromagnetic gun lies in its explosive penetrating power, tearing all objects within the range, and the resulting explosion is just the remaining wave. Hey, isn't it? Is Dumu dead? Where did the laser come from? He almost died. The stone man saw that he was cold and sweaty. If it wasn't for Susan to throw him away, it wouldn't be for Dumu to bear the blow. NS? Misaka Mikoto strode up from the rear at this time, and hummed dissatisfiedly after hearing the words, "Humph, my calculations can never be wrong, you stone people are blown away at most." What the Fantastic Four looked into was a junior high school girl, who was also the initiator of the violent laser. Misaka Mikoto? Piluo Johnny asked tentatively, and was surprised to find that Zhen turned around. This is a super electromagnetic gun. He is the youngest of the four. Of course, he has read manga magazines with the crowd. Fortunately, Shinigami has not yet entered the Jingling Ting chapter, otherwise he would see what Aizensook would look like. However, this is also a matter of time. Ben, she was right, she passed you by. Susan and the others got up and explained. Advertisement. Susan is still shocking the horrible penetrating power of this wave of lasers, and she doesn't have time to read comics. Reed also flipped through One Piece. They didn't have as much time to flip through comics than young people. But at the end of this time, they will definitely watch manga. The last time Saitama and this time Misaka Mikoto can explain that Suemo who has been to the seascape party may not be as simple as they thought. You can try to communicate, Reed thought calmly. Okay, I'm just making a sorrow. The stone man constrained his shoulders, buzzing Kide. Zero. When the building was in the building, there was a sound of violent rubble. They heard the reputation and went to the depths of the building, and the electric current was crackling. Dr. Doom's whole body was pitch black, and the metal body of almost Chikuakuo slowly staggered out. The most noticeable thing was that the metal surface of its fierce chamber collapsed directly into a large arc, almost until the back was almost penetrated. Oh, cough. Dr. Doom made a pop, and a large amount of black and red blood spurted out of his mouth and fell on the rubble and shingles. It's time to end now, DOM. The four of Reed lined up facing Dr. Doom, and Misaka Mikoto was surrounded by electric arcs. It's over? It's too early, Reed. Dr. Doom stood up and walked out of the ruins of the mansion that had been cut in half, dragging a bit of blood out of the ground. He looked at Misaka Mikoto with a solemn face and said, "It's a hero again. I hate all heroes. I was born in Latvinia, a small country in Eastern Europe. My mother was a gypsy witch, who was robbed of her soul when she was seeking power." A faint orange and golden light began to glow throughout Dumu's body, and he said in a deep voice a secret that he didn't even know when he learned from Reed. "In order to save my mother's soul, I not only wanted to use the huge universe energy storm for scientific exploration, but also browsed through various European magical ancient books. Until today, I finally mastered magic well." Dr. Doom raised his hands, his whole body absorbed the sea-like electric current of the whole block and disappeared suddenly, and then an astonishing wave of energy filled the air. Magic! The Fantastic Four and Misaka Mikoto are confused, isn't it a scientific world? Chapter 159. Not only the Fantastic Four and Misaka Mikoto are at a loss, all the melon eaters show a look like you are teasing me. Today, in the eyes of the world has been developing in accordance with the logic of the scientific concept. Although there are people with such abilities, such as the Fantastic Four, Hulk, and Dancing Man plus mutants, everything can be explained by science, nothing more than genetic upgrades. This is indeed the case. Thor appeared in a remote town. No one would think that this was a mythical character. With the serious nonsense of SHI. Now some people say that besides science and magic in this world, it is undoubtedly a huge impact on their basic outlook on life. The scientific superpower has extremely high instability. Hulk is a byproduct produced under such circumstances, and no 297 people can be targeted. Everyone in the world is imagining how great it would be if they could possess various abilities, just think about it. I really want to do scientific experiments. Few people can stand up fiercely and say, "Do whatever you want, don't treat me as a human being." Now that the word magic appears, doesn't it mean that people can orient and learn power? For a while, the people's eyes lit up, watching the developments closely, and seeing what magic was like. Misaka Mikoto frowned even more. When Kamisha Toma didn't know him, the worldview in his mind was always scientific. All abnormal phenomena are only developed by superpower, which is done by scientific means such as administering drugs to veins, drug administration, attaching electrodes to the skin, physical excitation, or using earphones to input rhythm, hypnosis hint, and other scientific methods. I have never heard of magic or anything. Victor Dom is already dead in the space laboratory. Dr. Doom exudes mysterious energy fluctuations, and suddenly rises into the air and floats in the air. Focused by the strangely horrified gazes in the eyes of the surrounding people, a kind of world is in your hands, and a small expansive sense of looking at the mountains emerges spontaneously. I am destruction, the end. Dr. Doom roared from the metal mask to the world with a piercing voice. The whole body was not the beating of electric snakes, but the magical energy of red, orange, and gold was flying unscrupulously. Seeing that the power of controlling electricity could not defeat the opponent for a long time, he turned out the magic that he had practiced for a long time. What kind of magic? I won't believe this, the prisoner should go to prison. At this time, Misaka Mikoto stepped forward, and the electric light crackled all over his body, and shouted at Dr. Doom. Advertisement immediately afterwards, there was a swift shot at the game coin, and the power of the super electromagnetic gun once again turned into a laser and blasted towards Dr. Doom. Dr. Doom exudes cold and indifferent eyes. It is the first time I have seen him in such contempt. He said coldly, "Little devil, don't think it's just now." As soon as the voice fell, he raised his hand and waved the red magic group to form a shield, facing the beam of light on his face. The orange laser directly bombarded the magic shield with a screaming, piercing sound, and at the same time, it was a sprint against Dr. Doom as before. Drink! Dr. Doom suddenly increased his magic infusion, and the endless energy poured into the shield, shining with a terrifying light, but he stopped at a stalemate after retreating 10 meters away. At the same time, the other hand swung an orange magic wave into the top of the laser. Dr. Doom, who was close at hand, already knew how the laser was formed. The constant acceleration of a coin in the electromagnetic is similar to the formation of a super electromagnetic gun that the military wants to popularize. Dr. Doom is a genius who is both a scholar and read, and he came up with a way to control it in a hurry. Orange light penetrated directly into the top of the laser where the coin was, and the violent energy exploded directly, causing the buzzing coin to turn into ashes in advance. The laser without the warhead quickly dissipated, and Dr. Doom sneered with complacency, "This is the power of magic, you are still far away." The laser without the warhead quickly dissipated, and Dr. Doom sneered with complacency, "This is the power of magic, you are still far away." Hey! Misaka Mikoto has a surprisingly strong personality and will not stop there. She took out a few coins in her hand. Isn't it? The stone man was surprised by the guess in his head. Between the electro-optical jumps, a laser burst out, and Dr. Doom quickly blocked and tried to destroy the coins, but found that there was another one that quickly increased the output. However, he found that Misaka Mikoto was still shooting coins. The magic couldn't sustain such a combo, and he quickly rolled on the spot and avoided one after another electromagnetic cannon. Rumble! In the shock of everyone, Misaka Mikoto fired 8 lasers in succession within 1 minute, causing Dr. Doom to scurry. The cement surface is full of deep ravines, dense cobweb-like cracks, and cracked pits of various sizes. The surrounding buildings are even more devastated, and the ruins everywhere are frightening. "This is power," Misaka Mikoto said proudly, thrusting his waist. "It seems that we don't need our help," Pili Huojani said helplessly when he saw it. Advertisement unexpectedly, an electromagnetic cannon in the comics is so vigorous in reality, such a code name is well deserved. "No, in my opinion, it's better to be careful," Cautious Reed reminded. "This kid can fire electromagnetic cannons with ease." Dr. Doom in the corner of the field has a pale face. "If you know that he has the ability to control electricity, he can't do this." Obviously, the girl in front of her must be able to control the electromagnetic force in addition to manipulating the high-voltage current, otherwise she would not be able to do this by herself. It's okay to say that the electromagnetic force is pure. If he controls the magnetic field, he will undoubtedly die. You must know that the whole body is manifested in metal. Moreover, electromagnetic force can also control metal, which is troublesome. If this were the case, Dr. Doom couldn't help but retreat, and his eyes flashed again and again. However, what he didn't expect was that Misaka Mikoto was also panicked now. If the opponent knew that the current in his body would be sucked away by him, he would definitely be beaten to death. Misaka Mikoto can manipulate billion-volt ultra-high voltage current, electromagnetic waves and electromagnetic force at will. But usually they have electricity-based abilities, and their weakness is those who can draw currents, that is, people like electro-optical people. Dr. Doom himself can absorb the current, but he has not thought about this, and simply thinks that it is almost the same. Can't make him 2.5 react, it must be resolved quickly. Misaka Mikoto whispered secretly, shouting to Dr. Doom, "Quickly give up, I have other moves. Electricity is no longer needed, use other power." As soon as the voice fell, the iron sand in the soil within 100 meters of the surrounding area began to restlessly, and under the guidance of electromagnetic force, it began to fall off and converge. The tiny iron sands gathered and turned into a thick black, followed by a substantial black whip. Snapped. Buzzing. Misaka Mikoto took a volley, like a black whip and a long knife, extending tens of meters in the air, and the sound produced is like amplifying the flapping of a bee's wings hundreds of times, which is extremely uncomfortable. "Well, I can really control the metal." Dr. Doom's face was so thick that water dripped out, and the last scene happened. Another Magneto. Chapter 160. On the aerospace carrier, Nick Fury is based here because it is speculated that Suemo has a powerful hacker intrusion system. The meeting is no longer held in the Trident building. "Director, I found it." Hearing Collison's joyous voice in the communicator, a long-awaited smile appeared on Nick Fury's dark face. Recently, his eyebrows have become bald with worry, but the occurrence of one after another has made him frantic. "Very well, bring him back," Nick Fury said in a plain and cheerful tone. "Okay, Director, I hope to get an autograph when he wakes up." "When you wake up, do it yourself." Nick Fury hung up the communication without hesitation, and looked at the unobstructed clouds in his heart. Since the frequent occurrence of terrorist supercrime incidents, the police, the army, and SHIELD agents have not been able to control the situation in time. In particular, the Manhattan area almost fell during the last hate incident, and the Department of Defense is still struggling with scolding incompetence. The word is the American people's view of the White House, and its credibility dropped to a low point for a while. On the contrary, the active appearance of heroes like a savior directly guides the people's heart, and each hero is held on the high altar and respected by others. This kind of personal heroism is popular among the folks, but in the eyes of the big people, it is just squeezing flies into their mouths, which is extremely disgusting. They must not let it go, otherwise the superheroes in the future will ride on them. But there was no way to tear his face directly with the Hero Academy and others. At this time, Nick Fury proposed to bring the American team back. In this way, they can compete with others. Coupled with Nick Fury's first cut and then play, they had to let the US team top the bag to ease the situation after thinking about it. Nick Fury really wanted to praise his wit. If it weren't for this kind of crisis, they wouldn't have agreed to Steve's comeback. However, fate is such a trick. Commander Hill rushed over and eagerly shouted, "Sir, there is another person with the ability of Magneto. There is another Magneto. This is already the third Magneto, and there is still more to it. Is it possible to be Magneto's daughter again? Are there 3 more ex-professors next?" When Nick Fury heard it, his feet were soft, he almost sat down to support his hands, the joy in his heart dissipated directly, and the pain that followed filled his heart, saying every word, "Speak clearly without missing a word." It's related to Sumo's cartoon. Advertisement. Listening to the beginning, Nick Fury's head is going to explode. Why doesn't this person stop all day long? Everything has to do with him. Nick Fury now feels that Sumo is controlling the development of the situation like a big boss, much more powerful than his SHIELD bureau. You must know that SHIELD agency is backed by the Security Council, with branches all over the world, and technology is at the forefront of the world. The president of a country constrains. Only the representatives of the 5 permanent members can vocalize together, so the existence of such awesomeness is like a rookie after Sumo appears. Nothing can be done, just like having fun. Nick Fury is dying in sorrow, and Dr. Doom on the street here feels even more troublesome. After the ability to control metal appeared, he carefully watched Misaka Mikato's movements. For fear of a magnetic field to control, like Magneto, he will play GG in depression. Give up, go to the prison to reflect. Misaka Mikato proudly persuades with a whip of iron sand. In the Academy City, she has always been concerned about her ability to cause harm to others and dare not release all her power, and she has never killed anyone. Therefore, Misaka Mikato will not kill him directly, but usually makes him lose his fighting ability. Hey, ridiculous! How could Dr. Doom be locked up in this way? Whether the opponent possesses Magneto King's ability is still uncertain. If so, why not directly control the metal all over his body? How could Dr. Doom be locked up like this? Whether the opponent possesses Magneto King's ability is still uncertain. If so, why not directly control the metal all over his body? Wouldn't it be easier in this way? Dr. Doom directly threw a magical energy whip, and the red energy whip went straight away like a python. Misaka Mikato couldn't help feeling that the advice was useless, so he would fight if he didn't listen. A huge amount of iron sand is manipulated by electromagnetic force, which generates vibration, just like an ultra-high-speed electric chainsaw directly hitting an energy whip. Buzzing! At the moment of the collision, the ear-piercing scream caused others to sing in their ears, and the black whip like a chainsaw slashed straight down, and the energy whip like a snake made a painful moan and was cut off. The magic whip that was disconnected suddenly emitted red light and burst like a high-explosive bomb, and the violent energy exploded toward Misaka Mikato. However, at this moment, a ring of black mist and iron sand rose from the ground under Misaka Mikato's feet, quickly rising from the ground to form a dark iron wall. The bursting energy was poured on the iron wall without a trace of spray, which made Dr. Doom look ugly, and the offensive and defensive power was really difficult to deal with. Now he can be sure that this girl is not manipulating the magnetic field like Magneto. She should indirectly manipulate the electromagnetic force by means of electricity and magnetism, so she can't control magnetism like Magneto. Otherwise, it is more than iron sand. Advertisement. However, his face swelled in the next moment. I still don't want to lose, so let's end it. Misaka Mikato, who is not good at fighting with magnets, just wanted to end quickly, standing still and shouting aggressively. The surrounding magnetic field began to disturb, and the strong electromagnetic force directly erupted, and the metal buildings around began to change frequently. Dr. Doom only felt that his metallic skin began to become unstable. It's really a little Magneto. The metal blocks in the ruins of the building directly hovered and flew, attacking Dr. Doom. When Dr. Doom was about to move to the side, iron sand from all directions flew up and turned into a high-speed vibrating slender assassination needle storm, attacking him at close range from 360 degrees in all directions. With both hands ready to release the magic shield, it is as heavy as 1,000 pounds. Although Misaka Mikoto can't directly control and pinch the metal body of Dr. Doom, he directly exerts a huge electromagnetic force to act, and he can still do it with slowness. What? First, the iron sand needle storm hit the body's surface directly, and the firm skin was magnetized for a short period of time before being beaten in pain. The metal lump that burst out immediately slammed directly at Dr. Doom. While the blood was spraying, Dr. Doom flew upside down like a cannonball and hit one side of the 060 wall to be embedded in. The pain in his whole body forced him to mourn and pant and couldn't stand up. The location of the iron sand bombardment was mostly the collapse of the fierce chamber, and the pain made him a little confused. It's over? It's so simple. Johnny couldn't accept it. Reed shook his head and explained, this is because Dumo encountered restraint. Both electromagnetic force and magnetic field control can affect metal. Hey, it's finally over. Misaka Mikoto sighed out. It would be hard to deal with if it wasn't for the metal on the opponent. It's a coincidence that Dr. Doom has the ability to control electric current to restrain Misaka Mikoto's electricity, but because he has metal on his body, he is affected by its electromagnetic force. Both sides can overcome each other, and it depends on who can discover the point of restraint the fastest. Misaka Mikoto, who was observing as early as one side, grasped this point. Therefore, after releasing the electromagnetic cannon, she didn't use the thunder and lightning gun, nor did she use the thunder, because it would expose the weakness in the arms of Dr. Destruction. This is a competition, and the observer is secretly sent to win. Seeing that the matter is finally over, the police and people have been waiting for a long time and applauded warmly, most of them cheering at Misaka Mikoto. The Fantastic Four were originally the center of the incident, but they became a foil in the battle, and the four were somewhat helpless. The young man who wanted to stop was throbbing when he watched the photo of Misaka Mikoto firing the electromagnetic cannon on the phone. Write a tweet, attach a picture and upload it to the internet. The electric light pulsating at your fingertips is my unchanging belief in this life. Only my super electromagnetic gun will last forever. This is a fascinating cry. Chapter 161. The New York Times, a superpower crime incident that occurred in the DOM Group building last night was stopped in time. The hero is a girl who has never seen it. Washington Post, another character from a comic character appeared in reality. What is the life experience of Misaka Mikoto, codenamed Super Electromagnetic Cannon? America Today, the super electromagnetic gun used by Misaka Mikoto is so powerful that the buildings are turned into cannon fodder, and there are no casualties. Experts question whether they can claim compensation. Daily Entertainment, shock. There is such a love and hatred between Mr. Fantastic and the Invisible Woman, Dr. Doom. Zayat, these damn media. Susan looked at the reports on the news. At first, it was pretty normal, but she didn't expect the last 8 trigrams to make her irritated. Johnny spread his hands and joked, "Sister, these are honest people." While browsing the hot spots on the phone, he paused and said, "How does Misaka Mikoto feel more hot than the current Ermat? Could it be because she is a girl?" "Johnny, let's go." Reed accepts the invitation of Charles, the principal of the Hero Academy. "Let's go now." Susan interrupted Johnny's guess. "That's right, there has been a wave of super electromagnetic guns on the internet, and it has spread like a virus from a tweet. Ah, when I was hit by an electromagnetic cannon, I can only live by seeing Mikoto Misaka. Then just lie down upstairs and wait for death. It's so handsome, this coin ejection has caught my young heart. The electric light pulsating at your fingertips is my lifelong faith, and the one who wrote this sentence is really a talent. Why do you feel like you were hit with chicken blood? Hehe, there must be a girl upstairs. Yes, of course you have to praise such a heroic female hero after all. No, they just want to YY. Hush, let them live in their dreams, it's just that Mrs. Saitama doesn't feel like it's been a long time. Where might I watch the sale event? Advertisement like netizens' doubts, many people find that Saitama seems to have faded out of people's sight. Compared with this, Ermat still maintains a sharp difference in activity. New York high altitude, aerospace aircraft carrier. At this moment, Nick Fury is standing behind a group of researchers, watching their heated discussions. They are not studying any high-tech weapons, nor are they arguing about a certain kind of scholarship, but looking through the comics to analyze whether there are any weaknesses in it. It is a pity that the comics are too short to find any useful information so far. Sir, after the image comparison, the range of the super electromagnetic gun is not far, about 50 meters, but it uses. A researcher came to summarize the information, but Nick Fury sounds like nonsense. When Nick Fury heard it, blue veins burst into his forehead, telling him what's the use of these, just tell him how to defeat Misaka Mikoto, not a big theory. Fortunately, Hill came to the rescue and informed Nick Fury of the meeting of the Security Council. Nick Fury walked into a dark secret room, a white light flashed on the screens in front of him, and 3 counselors appeared on the screens. There are 3 more, and there is a flash of light in Nick Fury's eyes. These 3 are representatives of the West, and the other 2 are representatives of the Tian dynasty and Mizi. The absence of representatives indicates that the 3 people represent the country. There are 3 more, and there is a flash of light in Nick Fury's eyes. These 3 are representatives of the West, and the other 2 are representatives of the Tian dynasty and Mizi. The absence of representatives indicates that the 3 people represent the country. Nick Fury, according to the news that the universe Rubik's Cube you mentioned has been found, is it true? One of the congresswomen said solemnly. Of course, we have now begun to study the universe Rubik's Cube. The energy contained in it is extremely terrifying. If it is made into a weapon, it can destroy everything. Really? Nick Fury, you can be so sure. Now the Security Council has been divided into 2 forces. You must always keep in mind your identity and the origin of SHIELD. Reminder. Nick Fury couldn't help sighing when he heard the words, secretly saying that what should come is still coming. SHIELD was originally a strategic science corps created by the United States in World War II. Later, after the war ended, it was retained after considering many vision events, and eventually became an international behemoth. Because backed by the Security Council, it enjoys endless resources. However, in recent years, the Eastern countries have found that SHI. Even though it belongs to the 5 permanent members in name, Nick Fury knows very well that in fact, there are only 3 MPs in control. I know this very well, and I have also discovered an unusual behavior in the East. They united to establish an organization privately. Nick Fury said blankly. The member on the right clicked with satisfaction, and then sneered, as long as we find it, we will destroy it immediately. We will never allow institutions other than SHIELD to exist. Advertisement. Nick Fury was silent, but SHIELD didn't find it. This kind of thing has involved the political pattern of opposition between things for many years, and he hates this kind of opposition. Obviously the aliens are here, and we can't let our hands work together to guard the Earth. Nick Fury, who is quietly speaking, can't help feeling sad. At this time, he thought bitterly that Sumo's invisible network connecting Iron Man and Hero Academy as the main body was doing the work of the Security Council. This had to be ironic. This makes Nick Fury a little disheartened, so tired. Okay, there are more important things to explain. The female congresswoman in the middle said solemnly. About One Punch Man Saitama has not appeared so far. Considering the authenticity of the images provided by Sumo's hacking capability satellite, we are going to send someone to try it out first. Wait, this kind of thing needs to be considered for a long time. If it's just a smoke bomb, then it's thorough. Nick Fury hurriedly discouraged. Don't worry, it's just a test. Mr. Zhou interrupted strangely with meaningful words. Well, what do you want? S.H.I.E.L.D. Cooperate. As soon as the voice fell off, the screen flashed and the 3 figures disappeared directly. This is equivalent to the information that didn't say anything that made Nick Fury's face pale. Once the trouble is big, it will be irreversible. He walked out of the secret room and said to Hill at the door, go and check if any department has just been established recently, or if there is any change in the military. After a while, Hill came to report and handed in a document. The above is all the latest developments of the military, and a special department appeared in the eyes of Nick Fury. Sentry Secret Service. By the way, sir, according to the secret investigation, it was discovered that the military had gone to a laboratory and took away a addict. Until now, it is puzzling that the whereabouts of the addict is unknown and the military's purpose is still unknown. At the same time, the person's name was not found. Nick Fury frowned, always feeling that things got worse than he thought. Is there anything wrong with this addict? Chapter 162. Hero Academy Underground Training Room. Hurry up, don't be lazy, don't even think about going back until the task is completed. Matt insisted on the teaching method of practicing as long as he could not die, and shouted to the extreme training students. The hero squad in the field heard the whole person getting goosebumps, flashing desperately forward, sweating profusely, and the purple Uzumaki gate in front was pushing forward little by little. All the energy is used to feed and eat, and the lasers of both hands are continuously fired. The two brothers and sisters of Lauren are face to face with grief and continuous formation of energy, and a surging ball of light slowly forms between the two of them. The heaviest thing is that fire guns, water cannons, and electric shocks are emitted from time to time around them so that they are busy dodge while training. The young heroes are all growing to varying degrees under Ermet's dedication, and the progress of the advanced mutants is obvious here. Wow, this is too hard. Scott, what do you say? Pietro said to Laser Eye, standing outside the skylight of the training room. This is the mission that the hero has to shoulder. This is not a playhouse. The laser with quartz glasses replied blankly, paused, and then said, it's true that this is really tough. Laser's eyes were distraught. They didn't work so hard in the previous training. According to the professor's words, if the progress is obvious, the X-Men will also follow suit. Pietro, who didn't know that the laser eye was a little bit awkward, stared at the training ground below, his eyes flashed again and again, and he whispered softly in his mouth, Hero. The past few days in the Hero Academia have had a great time with Wanda, and at the same time, the desire to avenge Tony Stark with hatred has disappeared under the persuasion of Professor Charles step by step. In fact, they also knew that it was useless to anger an arms dealer like Tony. Professor Charles is worthy of being a master of chicken soup for the soul. He forcibly broke the values of the two people, and at the same time moved them with emotion and reason to successfully stay in the Hero Academy. Not a student, nor a tutor, but a temporary guest, which embarrassed the two of them. So Wanda and Pietro started contacting college affairs, hoping to help a little bit. Bang! The sound of the other training ground was even more deafening, and Pietro instantly ran over and was dumbfounded. The orange laser stroke, judge, across the air, carrying intense energy directly to the layers of metal shields. Boom! 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 Advertisement. The super electromagnetic gun continuously pierced through the shiny metal, until the sixth shield smashed into a depression before it stopped. Mikato, the power of your electromagnetic cannon should depend on coins. Lorna walked out behind the metal shield and asked thoughtfully. Misaka Mikato also strode forward, slamming his cheeks and said, of course, if it is bigger, I will definitely pierce your shield. Misaka Mikato did not expect that the woman next to Suemo would have similar abilities to her, controlling the magnetic field, while she controlled electricity and electromagnetic force. If it is the material, the world has Edmund alloy, which is extremely strong. Lorna smiled indifferently. Used as a carrier is undoubtedly the best, but your electromagnetic force is too bad for metal control. With a wave of his hand, the surrounding metal pieces were as smooth as fluid and formed into lumps, and then turned into spikes. Hey, my power is electricity. Misaka Mikato hummed displeasedly, and raised his hands together to flicker electric lights on his body. At the same time, the ground under his feet began to crack, and there was an electric arc beating between the gaps. Electricity generates magnetism, and magnetism generates electricity. Electricity generates magnetism, and magnetism generates electricity. Misaka Mikato's electromagnetic force can be said to be a mastermind compared to Lorna in terms of controlling metal. And Lorna does not need to use a magnetic field to generate electric current. For her to generate electric current and then use a coin to push it is really the opposite of the horse. Come and try it. Lorna smiled, and the metal spikes that turned into streamers attacked her as she waved her hands. Buzzing! The air was torn and made a sharp scream. I can't ask for it. A high degree of self-esteem brings a strong desire to win. Misaka Mikato smiled when he heard the words, and the electric snake was surging wildly around. She did not use electromagnetic force to cause iron sand in the soil, and her lack of control ability would only be taken away from her ownership in the next moment. High voltage current is Misaka Mikato's skill, and fighting against Dr. Doom is not all his power. The electric snake soars, and the metal spikes are wrapped around the nang. The extremely high voltage directly melts the spikes and turns into iron droplets that fall on the ground. Advertisement that won't work. Misaka Mikoto stepped in and smiled triumphantly, and the faint arc spread out more and more. It's not over yet. When Lorna saw this, it was of course impossible to admit defeat. As the eldest sister in the family, she must set rules to let the newcomer. Hey, Mikoto doesn't seem to be in a relationship with Suemo regardless, the powerful Polaris is just forgotten. The metal in the soil was pulled out, and the ground was constantly shaking like a galloping horse. The steel bars in the surrounding walls also directly turned into particles and gathered to form a metal storm. The swift gust of wind blew hunting noises, magnetically pulling through the storm and turning into a high-speed rotating metal blade, reflecting the cold light in the air and pouring forward. Hey! An almost inaudible electric sound rang from Misaka Mikoto's front corner bangs. The high energy voltage caused by static electricity was the primer, and a violent current of nearly 1 billion volts flowed through the arm. Crackling! A round of electric light exploded in front of Misaka Mikoto's fingertips, and a circular arc was released, slowly spreading in all directions. An extremely white spot suddenly formed on the tip of the index finger. In the next instant, a small blue-white light beam suddenly burst into the air to form a javelin. Lightning gun. The speed was so high that the super electromagnetic gun flew forward in a straight trajectory at the speed of light. It just hit the hurricane formed by the metal blade in an instant, and the training field was immediately covered by a white cloud. It's not going to happen, Pietro said with palpitations at the arriving orbit. Olmert shook his head, patted a somewhat thin shoulder, and smiled. It's okay, the moves used by these two girls actually hurt both sides. The smoke and dust billowed in the arena, and Suemo directly hugged one in the thick smoke with a helpless expression. He shouted with black lines all over his head, is it necessary for my own people to work so hard? In fact, the lightning gun was extremely slender and directly passed through the gaps between the layers of the metal storm. Perhaps it penetrated and came to Lorna. Even if it had a shield, it was unknown whether it could be blocked. The voltage of the lightning gun is terribly strong, but the current contained in it is so low that it will not cause death by direct contact with electricity, but shock. This is also a trick that Misaka Mikoto can often throw in the Academy City. He has never killed anyone so far. The metal storm was directly passed through the lightning gun and faced Misaka Mikoto, who was close at hand, as a riding face. Two idiots, can still compete like this. Chapter 163. Lorna scratched her head, but her eyes drifted around, calmly saying, isn't there you? That's right, you can't make Lorna hurt. Misaka Mikoto woke up and was still being held, and immediately struggled. Let go, I don't need you to hold me at all. Even if I can hold me, I can't be okay. The unhappy Mikoto subconsciously put the current on, so that Suemo didn't slap them on the head angrily. I knew long ago that the two should not be allowed to compete, but it was also because of his presence that he would use these tricks. At this time, Wanda came over and shouted to Suemo, the Fantastic Four is here, the professor invites you to go. Suemo nodded and put down the two of them, and said to Misaka Mikoto and Lorna, don't continue, do you know? Lorna pushed and told Suemo to leave. Misaka Mikoto's cheek flashed with lightning. Suemo secretly walked out of the training ground side by side with Wanda, thinking of what Charles invited him over. This morning, Charles extended an invitation to him through Ormit, and at the same time said that he invited the smartest or most powerful superhero on the planet. Wow, listening to this tone, Charles seems to want to do something big. People who don't have a certain amount of weight are not included in this list, such as the little spider of the common people. Now Suemo walked here with the attitude of taking a look, but it was too early and no one came and had to come to this training ground with the two to see how Lorna usually trains. Misaka Mikoto started to itchy hands, challenged Lorna, and had the previous scene. It looks like you are very helpless. The redhead Wanda looked at Suemo along the way, with a wrinkled look between her brows, and asked curiously, is it for Lorna and Misaka Mikoto? I have always wondered if Mikoto is really a real person. When Suemo heard the words, he turned his head to Wanda and looked directly into his eyes. There was a sultry wave in his eyes, but the whole person exuded a pure temperament. This Scarlet Witch is much more than before the time of the movie Ultron. Behind the crimson silky long hair shawl, the fiery red tight-fitting waistcoat wraps the curvaceous figure. The day when this devil figure appeared in the academy, he fascinated the Iceman and the fireman, and made the little mischievous Iceman almost break up. Of course, Wanda refused unceremoniously, and the whole person was cold and frosty and only recently raised a smile. The exquisite beauty just made Sumo's eyes shine brightly, because of Wanda's words flashed in his eyes. Since the appearance of Urmat and Misaka Mikoto, there has been an argument that both were summoned by Sumo from the comics. As early as when Saitama appeared, there were people who had doubts like this, but they were left behind and rejected. Advertisement after all, this kind of ability is really comparable to gods, perhaps surpassing gods. Wouldn't it be easy to overthrow the world just by drawing a picture? Now because Misaka Mikoto shines on the streets, this argument has begun to emerge, and it has really been supported one after another for a while. I have never heard of it before, and now it is too sudden, and there are so many speculations. This is also something that S.H.I.E.L.D. has always been suspicious of, because with the lessons learned, they will churn the characters involved in the information database every time a comic is published. Misaka Mikoto is also in this list, and he appeared directly after he had no information before. The hacker's ability made Nick Fury irritated. Unlike the folks, Nick Fury has become more and more convinced in the theory of summoning, but what is completely different is that he believes that it is not summoned from comics, but should be summoned from another world. At the same time, it is unpredictable, otherwise it has been tampered with before. Think of it this way: Nick Fury doesn't know whether to cry or laugh. There are many people who think about it, and Wanda is one of them. Are people in reality important? Sumo smiled slightly at the corner of his mouth, his dark eyes exuding the color of the abyss, and he ran over Wanda's hair with one hand, and smiled lightly. It's like the moment this strand of hair is born, it belongs to me. In the future, they will all be my friends and have a brand new life of their own. In the future, they will all be my friends and have a brand new life of their own. In Wanda's stupefaction, a strand of hair appeared in the open palm, and then the cold began to spread, and it followed the hair mat and formed an ice rose on the top. After the sunlight reflected into the corridor curtains, a touch of sunlight fell on the crystal clear ice crystal rose, and the fiery red inside reflected the beautiful scenery. A rose that will never be zeroed. Sumo sandwiched the end of the ice root and placed it in front of Wanda. Little trick, I will tell Lorna that you are very courteous to me. Wanda sniffed and snorted coldly. Sure enough, it's a scumbag, so if you see a woman, just show your favor. This is not a gesture of goodwill, but a simple and clear change of topic. Wanda heard the words and remembered that Zi had just asked the question, and realized that he had been misled like this, and said in shock, You. Don't just throw it, just do it with you. At the end of the corridor is a conference room. Sumo stood in front of the door and threw it aside, smiling. As soon as the voice fell, he turned his handle to go in alone, and then closed it. At the same time, the ice rose fell to the ground like a parabola. Advertisement who said no, it looked okay, but I reluctantly accepted it. A faint magic group rose from below to catch the ice rose. Wanda put it in his hand, a slight cool air radiated, and the gorgeous scenery above attracted the eyes. Roses? Wanda turned and left, a little deer in his heart bumping into his heart and losing his position. The strangeness that had never happened before emerged spontaneously, and a faint blush appeared on his face. Call out! At this time, Pietro appeared in the corridor like wind, and when he saw Wanda's beautiful face, he secretly said that it was not good. The scenes of Sumo maneuvering along the way flashed in my mind. In addition, when I met for the first time, I became anxious, rolled up my sleeves and walked to the meeting room, ready to teach Sumo. Zero, what are you doing? Pietro, the professor, and the guests are all inside. Wanda directly stopped Pietro with magic and chuckled softly. When Pietro heard this, his face became even more anxious, and he said to Wanda, Are you bullied by Sumo? It's just that the professor can be fair to us. He slapped the force field barrier as he said. Quickly untie it. Pietro, what are you thinking about? He just gave an ice rose. Wanda raised his hand and pulled Pietro out. Oh, no, Wanda, he gave you this. He has bad intentions. I can tell that he is a playboy like Tony Stark. I am against you too. Enough, Pietro. The voices of the siblings went further and further, and gradually disappeared between the corridors. In the conference room, Sumo, who had no sound in his ear, was not only not embarrassed, but sitting on the sofa casually, drew Tony's thumb to one side. Tony, in a casual outfit, raised Erlang's legs and shouted, Gao, it's really like me. Hehe, let's get back to business. I didn't expect Tony and Reed to be here. I guessed Charles when he said to invite the smartest person. There are also the Fantastic Four talker Fantastic Reed and the mutant leader Professor Charles, plus Stark Industries chairman and Iron Man, and comic company chairman and pragmatic cartoonist Sue Mo, all facing each other. If it is 100% known to SHIELD Bureau, it will be shaken. Chapter 164. Smart person? How did you become a smart person? Oh, it seems that Professor Charles was wrong. Tony ridiculed habitually when he heard it. Professor Charles invited him over to lie down. It happened that after studying the latest suit of armor, he wanted to relax, so Tony came here without knowing that he invited other people. No, he was right, because I am the strongest person. Mr. Stark, what superpower do you have? Sue Mo pointed his finger at Tony and asked. Tony coughed and said flatly, of course, my superpower is rich. If you have money, you can do whatever you want. The words are very light and bland, but they are full of pretense. Tony is still as humorous as ever. Fantastic Reed Richards joked with him, I think SHIELD has already jumped. Professor Charles invited us for some reason, thinking that this is not the place for the party. August 4-3 He and Professor Charles are not very familiar, this time because Tony is also on the list of invitations, so come and see. Of course, the bigger reason is that the leader of the mutants should not be underestimated. As soon as these words came out, Tony and Sue Mo had no hippie smiles and looked at Charles seriously. Each of the 4 positions will be taken seriously by SHIELD, and the connection between Tony and Charles was only done through Sue Mo. This time Tony has officially entered the Hero Academy. Not to mention the Fantastic Four. Charles sat in a wheelchair, looked at the 3 of them calmly, and said deeply, SHIELD may be furious because of our meeting, but I still invite 3 of them. I want to establish an organization to face the future crisis about the Earth. Although disasters have only happened recently, I should feel that a single force is no longer sufficient to deal with it. It is a secret organization that exists to solve the crisis that threatens the Earth. The atmosphere of the scene was somewhat depressed, and no one spoke. Sue Mo is a little at a loss. In the memory of the X-Men in his mind, does Charles have any organization other than the mutant leader? Could it be that it was another storm swayed by his butterfly? But it doesn't seem to matter whether this organization exists or not. He and the mutants are originally an alliance, and the other 2 are important. Tony spoke firmly at this time, Professor Charles, maybe the recent crime is too serious, but I firmly believe that Iron Man can protect the Earth. Tony Stark is an extremely arrogant person, and things like teaming up monsters also happened during the war. Allies are not reliable for him. Advertisement Sue Mo seemed to him to be a friend, not an ally, and the presence of an ally meant that he could not stand alone. If Veronica finishes halfway, he will be able to be one man, but he won't be able to play. Although I also hope to form a joint organization to face the Earth crisis together, but Professor Charles, how can you guarantee that this will not become a sharp sword for mutants? Reed hesitated. Unlike Tony, he does not have too much self-esteem. It is imperative to unite and help each other under multiple disasters. But he doesn't want such an organization to only wipe out pie shares for mutants. Of course, the identities of the members of this organization are strictly confidential to the outside world, and family members and friends who are also superheroes are not aware of the existence of this organization. Charles answered with a gentle face, it lies in working together secretly in order to deal with the huge crisis that may arise in the future, and is always prepared for the final battle against threats to the Earth. Only when a potentially huge crisis is discovered will a secret meeting be held to discuss coping strategies. Other than that, there is no binding force. Listening to Professor Charles talking about it, the spirit in it made Reed quite moved. Listening to Professor Charles talking about it, the spirit in it made Reed quite moved. Professor Charles turned his head to Tony Stark, who had an indifferent attitude, and said solemnly, I know that Mr. Stark has the smartest mind on Earth to deal with all kinds of crises. But this crisis is very different. Not just telling Tony alone, Sue Mo and Reed flashed doubts in their eyes. Professor Charles looked at the ceiling and followed the impression in his mind to explain, Jin once again had a nightmare. The difference from the past is that this time it directly threatens the entire Earth and even the solar system. The low tone made the 3 people realize that Charles was afraid, which was very depressing. It is necessary to know that his spiritual ability is the first on Earth, and he can easily control the whole area of the mind under normal conditions. Sue Mo interrupted at this moment, what is it that made you think like this? I knew that this world didn't follow the movie, but another god ran out? Galactus? Suemo remembered that he really came out in Fantastic Four too. If it is Galactus, please pray that it is just a combat unit, otherwise it will be impossible to play. Advertisement. I don't know, Jin has been afraid of such power until now, and only said that the Earth will be destroyed in the explosion of stars. Charles was unprecedentedly serious, and these words alone made him tremble. Tony heard this and wanted to laugh a little. Professor, can you really be joking? The explosion of stars? No one can own it. Alien invasion. I have no idea. Once again in silence, no one spoke, and Tony felt that Charles couldn't be joking about it. Well, I'll consider it. Tony lowered his head in silence, frowned, sighed after a moment. He didn't believe that anyone would have such power. Even if it could be contained, it would be unstable. It should be an alien technology. However, there is some relaxation on the proposal of this organization, and it is still necessary to fight the crisis together. What about the name? The organization must have a name, right? Suemo asked. The illumination. The light, will. Reed muttered to himself several times, and nodded with some satisfaction. The sunshine is in line with the characteristics of the organization. Suemo raised his brows and touched his chin. He always felt that the name had been heard from somewhere. It seemed that it was really the organization of Marvel Universe. The organization formed by Tony Stark, Professor Charles and Mr. Fantastic should be able to play a great role in dealing with the crisis. I'm going back first. Pepper is still waiting for my dinner. Seeing the meeting ended, Tony hurriedly left. Recently, the relationship between the two has heated up, and it seems that 2.8 marriage is not far away. Reed also left with a heavy heart. Obviously, the power of stars made him helpless, and Charles had no need to deceive them. After the two left, Suemo didn't get up, but his eyes flashed again and again, and he said flatly, Charles is not like you. There should be reservations. I can't hide anything from you. Yes, I didn't tell them one thing. Charles drove the wheelchair to Suemo, staring straight and continued, I can come into contact with his mind fluctuating very sharply, and there is a personality full of destruction competing with him for sovereignty. Where is he? I don't know, he is asleep, asking for help. Suemo felt that it was very tricky, and the power of the piano seemed to be increasing. If he could guide the Black Phoenix to stop the power of the star, should it work? Chapter 165. The morning sun rises from the horizon and mirrors into the glass at Madara's point. The thick quilt covers the indescribable two people. The atmosphere is full of warm colors under the shining of the sun, and everything looks very beautiful. Lorna, with the delicate face, stuck to Sumo's fierce mouth, floating up and down slightly along her breath, her charming eyes gently squinting in unknown directions. I already told Wanda about their lives. Lazily napping like a kitten, Lorna looked up at Suemo in a daze, whispering like a mosquito. It's time to let them know. If the hatred is not eliminated, it will only make things more and more complicated. How do they react? Suemo yawned, and withdrew the hand from Lorna's pillow, preparing to get up. Yesterday, I chatted with Professor Charles for a while about that person. The mental fluctuations that the professor received were too chaotic, and at the same time mixed with violent, bloodthirsty, and destruction. After layers of anatomy, the professor only knew that he needed help, but he didn't know what it was called or where. Telepathy cannot detect the source, and the professor guessed that the source must also be covered by a telepath. The two had no choice but to end the topic depressed. There was too little information to analyze, so they had to be fully prepared to deal with it. After that, Suemo accompanied Misaka Mikoto and Lorna to spend the whole day together in the academy. The passionate atmosphere inside to become a hero made Misaka Mikoto excited. He mixed in happily, and at the same time arrogantly invited people to challenge the whole master who was not afraid of things but was nosy. When leaving, Suemo did not see that Wanda wanted to discuss with Pietro how to face the fact that Magneto was his father. It seems that some are very disgusted with him, it should be blamed on him for abandoning. Lorna answered quietly, she was also adapting to the extra elder brother and sister. It takes time for each other to think. Okay, I don't want to worry about these things anymore, and Gwen was dragged into a laborer to make me unable to enjoy myself. What should I do? Suemo turned over and pressed, his eyes glowing with hot light, and he said with interest. Lorna struggled, and said in a bad mood, Ryo, I'm going to get up. Gwen's recent laboratory is in the final stage. He often works overtime and is pulled by a professor as an assistant. I heard that he is still a teacher at Peter's school. The morning was spent amidst laughter and laughter. Misaka Mikoto in the living room was the two who walked out of the bedroom with gritted teeth. The word well jumped directly on Misaka Mikoto's forehead, and shouted with a displeased face, "When on earth are you going to sleep? It's noisy at night, don't you know?" Advertisement Sumo sat on the table, picked up a hamburger, and said solemnly, "I don't know, the soundproofing effect of the wall should be good." Lorna was covering her mouth and snickered, and whispered, "Mikoto is 15 years old, so I seem to know a lot." When the two sang and made a piece, Misaka Mikoto's brain was bloodshot, and the crimson color floated on his cheeks. The heart of the volcanic eruption directly affected the appearance of electric light. During the crackling, the electric arc flickered, Misaka Mikoto waved his hand violently, and the high-voltage current blasted up. Puff! An electric python of tens of millions of volts made a poof sound on Sumo's body, like a pebble hitting a lake. If you take a closer look, you can find that there is a thin light blue film on Sumo's body surface to dissolve it. This is spiritual power. It's useless, it's not as good as tickling. Sumo made a mockery of no face, with a playful smile of "you are a weak chicken" on his face. "Hey!" Misaka Mikoto snorted coldly, and instead of looking at Sumo, he turned his grief and anger into motivation and ate early. It's better to poke 100 holes in the bread above as if it is a vengeance. "Sumo, why don't you know how to cook yet? You are a mature adult, and it makes cooking feel wasteful." Ji suddenly spoke in contempt. "Sumo, why don't you know how to cook yet? You are a mature adult, and it makes cooking feel wasteful." Ji suddenly spoke in contempt. "I remember you once said that you can make delicious food, what about things?" Faced with Garli's questioning, Sumo really had the scene at that time in his mind. At that time, he vowed to let Garli take the medicine. But later I was delayed by a lot of things. The most important thing was that the spirit of the halberd eater was useless except for its delicious food and bursting clothes. Now that the old thing is brought up again, Lorna also remembered to look directly at Sumo with a smile, and Misaka Mikoto was even more unknown, but also ironically said, "He doesn't know how to cook. Anyway, he is a master." Whoops, Unizai are still excited. Sumo, who was severely provoked, slapped the table and immediately got up in anger and said, "Who said no? I can do everything except having a baby." "What about then?" Galopon said with cold water, weakly. "Do you know how to dress?" Hiss. Sumo took a breath and froze in his heart. This is really not true. He immediately patted Julie's head painfully, and rightly said, "Where do you know these things?" Advertisement. It was the last comic show. I caught a glimpse of you and Gwen looking at their women's dresses. Gaily touched her head painfully, her tone stretched, "Hey." This topic seemed a bit heavy inexplicably. "Oh, don't think about being serious." Sumo flipped through Byakugan, coughing dryly, and gazed deeply at Jiali with a flash of light in his mind. "What's the matter?" Jiali was a little bit stunned, and she was shocked and held the small energy block in her mouth like a bamboo rat. "It's nothing, but it reminds me of a gourmet comic." Sumo took 2 or 3 bites and finished breakfast earlier and walked into the study. Misaka Mikoto's eyes glowed, so he followed closely into the study. Comics can be said to be her biggest hobby after Kyutai. She is extremely content with her current life, and she is filled with abundant comics all day long. It is Sumo who is too damn it. "Do you want to see?" Sumo squinted 500, making Misaka Mikoto's eyebrows cold. "I'm giving you a check." Sumo shook his head, picked up the paintbrush and started drawing. At the beginning of this cartoon, he didn't expect that it was the scene of Garli biting the energy block that suddenly reminded him. Food and energy may be said to be an evolutionary comic. Everyone in the world must drool over the food inside. The first gourmet food Sumo saw in his previous life was the Hyuxia Little Master. Later, it turned out that it was painted by Dongying people, which made Sumo really bewildered. Although Zonghua Yifun involves dark cooking, killing invisible and even immortals, it is not enough to see in Marvel. What he wants to paint is a gourmet world full of novel and fantasy exploring for rare ingredients. This world has a powerful system that no other food fan has ever seen, and it can be called a kingly blood. The big boss of his comics is also regarded as a big villain in Marvel Universe. He has swallowed millions of planets, and there is still another world in his stomach. This setting can be said to be a unique, thrilling and crisis-filled foraging adventure, which has attracted the attention of many comic fans. But what is criticized is that there are too many men and not many girls, especially since there is not one of the protagonists in the front, which is called a rotten fan by ridicule. In the end, the protagonist still married a woman, which disappointed some people. Sumo's pen and paper are flying, a new fantasy and adventure comics popping up on paper. Captive of Gourmet Food. Chapter 166. The Captive of Gourmet, also known as the Hunter of Gourmet. The story tells that the chef Komatsu of a high-end restaurant meets the food hunter Tokiko in search of high-end and fresh dishes. Under Tokiko's guidance, Komatsu enters a world of cuisine that he has never seen before, rare ingredients from all over the world. Dazzling high-end menus, bizarre gourmets, tyrannical enemies, and unprecedented cooking methods, they are embarking on this foraging journey in search of rare delicacies. The most interesting thing here by Sumo is the food cell, which was discovered by Acacia, the god of food in the comics, in the phantom jellyfish in the deep sea. It was found that the cell activity in the body of a jellyfish is different from that of ordinary fish. The limbs of the phantom jellyfish will regenerate after being eaten. The animals that eat the jellyfish will become more delicious, and life can evolve because of this. After the cells are extracted and implanted into the human body, human cells can be activated, and human life can evolve after eating food. At the same time, the power will become more than ordinary humans and beyond the limits of humans. On the contrary, in the Marvel Universe, such cells may not play a big role. After all, there are not enough gourmet creatures here. After Sumo painted the 5 words, he was snatched by Misaka Mikoto and looked through it carefully. He walked to the floor-to-ceiling window alone, thinking. If people with such food cells swallow electro-optical people, mutants, and even gods, can they evolve? From the perspective of high energy, that is, higher creatures, the flesh and blood of the gods is undoubtedly extremely high energy. Sumo touched his chin, his eyes flickered again and again, and he made up his mind to give it a try. Presumably Orochimaru should be very interested. Yu Guang glanced to the side of Villa No. 2, when Xiao Jinmi was eating human flesh. Jin Wuyan shuddered subconsciously while playing the game console indoors. Sumo, I think you take a look at this first. Alice was projected at this time, her human brow furrowed, and there was news between her waves. A white-haired old man who looked like a scholar, but the serious nonsense in his mouth made Sumo smile disdainfully. Mutants are actually the same as humans, but they are infected with a disease. Alcatraz Island, where it is now, was once the most famous prison in the world, and it will become a base to liberate mutants in the future. Now that this disease has a perfect antidote, mutants will become humans just like us, free from pain. Advertisement white scholars talked eloquently in news interviews, and the host directly refuted it. No, the current academics have shown that this is genetically caused and not a disease, and now thanks to mutant heroes, some crimes can be suppressed. We got. The host used excellent eloquence in front of the camera and used the low crime rate in his hands to prove the existence of mutant heroes, which swelled the face of the white scholar. At the end of the show, the white scholar still called the mutant threat theory and was treated like a joker by the audience, just a post-dinner talk. According to statistics, there are more and more programs like this on TV stations recently, and searches have found that the source of the final money transactions came from various departments. It seems that they can't bear it anymore. They are finally ready to do it. Sumo found something wrong with the White House and the military through Skynet. Now seeing this argument is a salute before the fight. Medicine to treat disease? Mutant gene inhibitors should be the plot of X-Men 3's Last Stand, and Black Phoenix also showed Kamui at this time. Mutant gene inhibitors should be the plot of X-Men 3's Last Stand, and Black Phoenix also showed Kamui at this time. One thing, I'm very puzzled, how can they use this method to do things in such an environment where the whole people worship mutant heroes? Alice couldn't help but wonder. This is what the world thinks, how good heroes are now, saving lives in the water every day, especially young people are already fans of various heroes. They hope that the more heroes the better. How can they turn mutants back into humans? Therefore, the vast majority of people are now scolding companies that develop pharmaceuticals on the internet. There are many ways for them to do it. This medicine should be real. Then who do you think will be anxious? Sumo sighed, the one who should come or it will come. The mutant himself? No, it should be a mutant led by Magneto. That's right, Magneto is already in action. He first appeared in an abandoned church and began to deceive people's hearts. Advertisement. The speakers on the stage are shouting impassionedly, a committee should be formed to talk to the White House and express the protests of mutants through dialogue. Show the difference between mutants to humans, educate them, and make them take mutants seriously. But such remarks cannot be recognized by the mutants in the audience, and they need more radical means. Injection of these drugs will completely transform into humans, which is to exterminate mutants. So I hope everyone can support the Hero Academia to come forward and negotiate with them. We don't need treatment. The men on the stage agitated the emotions of others, and the name of the Hero Academia obviously made them respond crazy. At this time Magneto appeared. His white-haired man was proud, everyone recognized him, and he was quiet for a while, and he walked to the front of the stage. Magneto exudes a terrifying aura, and the crazy cold light in his eyes directly shocks the audience. When we want to find them to negotiate, humans will take the lead in launching an extermination operation, forcing us to accept the antidote. So, do you want to join us in the fight, or do you want to sit still? Which side are you on, humans? Or ourselves? With extremely inflammatory remarks, the hearts of other mutants, Chanios, boiled directly, and the mutants shouted to follow on the spot. Magneto nodded in satisfaction when he saw this. He had been watching Charles's original selection of the Hero Academy, which made him feel a glimmer of hope. It seems that humans are still somewhat desirable. However, the appearance of the mutant medicine made him angry, and he still wanted to kill the mutants. That being the case, he will be the butcher and kill the past, let the world know that mutant talents are the dominance of the planet. Human beings just tremble honestly. Interesting, Magneto, don't you mind letting us Hellfire join us? A clear voice came from the door, and a woman in a black dress was walking towards Magneto, everyone subconsciously. The spread out of a channel. Magneto King saw this, his pupils shrank sharply, and coldly snorted, Black Queen. Chapter 167. Hey, we didn't invite you, who are you? A mutant with hedgehog spikes all over the crowd came out, his eyes exuding malicious eyes, and stared at the woman. The Black Queen has a graceful appearance and a devil-like figure, coupled with this low fierce dress, which made some male mutants swallow. The Black Queen walked straight to the center, without turning her face when she heard the words, but raised her charming hand on the shoulder of the hedgehog in full view. Women, yes, Just as the hedgehog's head was full of joy, the Black Queen's hand suddenly clasped her neck and lifted it up. Of course it's good, and it's delicious to think about your life. At this time, the Black Queen turned sideways and looked directly at the hedgehog's head, and the hell-like infiltrating words caused others to shrink their necks directly. Then the hedgehog's head felt cold all over, and then something was flowing to the hand on the neck. Put. In the eyes of other people, the skin of the hedgehog's head suddenly became pale and an old Madara appeared. His hands were no longer able to hang down, and his eyes flew out of his eye sockets, and began to be drawn and dried up like a balloon. The next moment, he was thrown to the ground with a puff, and the hedgehog's head was now like a skinny bone, and the old man with white hair was lying on the ground and trembling, as if a gust of wind would blow it and he would die. After 590 minutes, the surrounding mutants were dumbfounded and backed away several steps. They couldn't believe that a strong guy just became like this in a blink of an eye. This is absorbing the vitality of the human body. Magneto, he had seen the Black Queen 10 years ago, and she was so beautiful. The Black Queen, a member of the Hellfire Club, used to be the Black Queen of his organization when Magneto and Charles faced off against Sebastian Shaw in World War II. At that time, the two young and energetic overthrew Xiao and thought that the Hellfire Club had fallen apart. However, the facts are far from as simple as they thought. For so many years, Hellfire has been attached to it like a witness in the long river of history. Magneto later learned more about it before he knew the greatest power of Hellfire. Hellfire Club is an international organization that gathers elites from all over the world. Today, the club has become a successful merchant and aristocrat. Becoming a member of the Hellfire Club is the supreme honor of the upper class. It can be said that today's real estate tycoons, listed chairmen, and so on are proud of going into Hellfire. Advertisement. If it is limited to the economic level, Magneto certainly scoffs at it. What really made him dignified was that the organization was mainly in the hands of some mutants who felt that their mutant abilities and social status were far superior to ordinary people. These mutants form a core group, named after chess pieces, black or white queen, queen, bishop, and rook. The core group controls the Hellfire Club and silently influences the club's activities to grab more rights and wealth. Now I don't know how many industries are involved, it is undoubtedly a behemoth. It seems that the members are made up of mutants, but they are not for the benefit of the overall mutants like the Brotherhood, but they are for themselves. Magnetic King, I'm so sorry to have killed a subordinate, but this does not affect my purpose. The Black Queen felt a little sour and refreshed as if she took a big cigarette. She licked the corner of her mouth and made others shudder. This is not a member of his Brotherhood. Magneto, who regards his cannon fodder, will not be ashamed and angry. Magneto narrowed his eyes flickered brightly, and slowly said, what is the purpose of Hellfire? Magneto has always kept the water of Hellfire well, and they have never found a door for revenge, but it is a ghost to come here today. The Black Queen walked to the front of the Magneto King at a leisurely pace, and said softly, of course I will know what the purpose is. Now the most important thing is that we are on your side. The Black Queen walked to the front of the Magneto King at a leisurely pace, and said softly, of course I will know what the purpose is. Now the most important thing is that we are on your side. The devilish girl behind Magneto immediately stopped in front of Magneto, and shouted coldly, a little closer, I will kill you. Such an ability to absorb life has to be valued. Oh, is the little old mother still jealous? It's a pity that you never got his heart. The Black Queen said mocking words to make the devil girl not anger, damn it, and the killing intent burst out. Enough, Black Queen, I accept your intention. Magneto Wangshen, JD, thought for a moment, waved his hand to stop the magic girl, his face firmly said, then what should I give? Cooperation is transaction, and there is communication. You don't need to pay any price, our purpose is the same, for mutants. The Black Queen said with a smile. For mutants. Magneto also yelled, and the surrounding mutants were also encouraged by it to celebrate that such a powerful person has joined the great cause of rebellion. However, Magneto would never believe that there is such a good thing, no cost, bah, whoever believes it, there must be tricks. Advertisement. Magneto has been in power for many years, he has a bottom line in everything, and this matter is no exception. A dark underground secret base, here is a strict guard, 3 steps 1 person, all well equipped, each is a good soldier. Save me, save me. An ordinary young man in the laboratory murmured to himself tremblingly on stage. He closed his eyes tightly, his whole body muscles were subconsciously tense, and a faint golden light wandered in his body, increasingly becoming bigger and stronger. He is calling for help to people who don't know where he is. He is scared or afraid of something, just like dreaming of a devil. The triplet sisters who stood in front of the stage were exactly the same from beginning to end, with white-blue light radiating from their eyes, and a powerful spiritual storm continued to impact the youth. Outside the laboratory, the female congresswoman who had initiated the council meeting watched the situation at the window, her face was dissatisfied and said, why is it so slow, why is the brainwashing not over? Hey! Faced with such a scolding, the blonde girl beside her was expressionless, shook her head and said, the power in Robert's body is rapidly increasing and has grown to the energy of a star. This state is still going on. If it weren't for the mind control of him at the beginning, I'm afraid it would have already turned us to ashes. Sister Duoying Cuckoo and my soul can only stabilize one head, and construct a personality in it, as long as the personality succeeds in seizing power, then you're done. In other words, before he succeeded, he now became a hot potato. The White Queen did not promise you that way. The congresswoman shouted angrily. The White Queen was silent, and did not expect that the man's power was so strong, and at the same time his spirit began to grow stronger, undoubtedly putting a question mark on the date of success. Our plan needs him to complete, can it be done now? If it is over now, I am afraid that the energy released by the direct runaway can completely blow up the United States. The woman was furious and thought it was a spear, but she didn't expect it to be a nuclear bomb smashed in her hand. No matter how crazy she was, she could not damage her foundation. Your Excellency, please don't worry, we don't need this man and our sentry robot can still remove obstacles. Bolivar showed his hospitality behind him, making a package. Bolivar was very dissatisfied with the people inside. He was the same as him, and he wanted to snatch the name sentry from him. There was no door. Oh, it can only be so. Chapter 168. The aerospace carrier jumped out with the morning light in the high altitude of the new day, and Nick Fury sat in the command room planning the future plan. For example, since last week, the aerospace aircraft carrier has maintained an 18-hour day and night flight, which consumes a lot of power and energy. Fortunately, Stark Industrial's development of the Ark's energy block can be flat. It was just being slaughtered by Tony Stark's BD, which was really uncomfortable. Nick Fury was secretly resentful, and turned to a look of iron. Fantastic and the four of them gathered at the Hero Academy must be what they want to do. He raised his head and looked out the window, and sighed, it's really eventful _ah. Nick, if you don't see it, you can still feel it. A voice full of vitality came in, and an extremely strong young man in grey sportswear walked in. Captain, that's the truth. Nick Fury asked with a smile on his face when he saw this. How about it, adapting to no new era? It's okay. I will record the changes in history on this little book. Steve Rogers smiled plainly with a nostalgic expression on his face. The language is full of bitterness. As a hero of the Second World War, he wakes up in this new era. The former comrades in arms are turned into a handful of ashes. The beloved woman has long been married as someone else and is now a grey-haired old man lying at home waiting to die. The world of non-human beings made him feel confused. It seemed that this world didn't need a superfluous person like Steve. He couldn't find a place to stay. He was punching, running, and sleeping all day, as if he was still not awake in his dream. Fortunately, there is another thing that allows him to immerse in it and experience the various aspects of life. Steve lifted the plastic bag in his hand and prepared to leave. The sunlight reflected on the transparent bag and the clear text was captured by Nick Fury, who was good at observing. Wait, Captain, you bought it? Nick Fury asked in a soft voice, feeling very heartbroken, and his face was dull and unwilling to face reality. Oh, you said this? Manga Magazine, Boy Jump, and Soulmate Mang also have a few pamphlets. Steve raised a plastic bag and walked to the stage to take out a comic book. He said with some excitement, especially this one. The Crimson Eye vividly portrayed a dark and vivid picture in the cartoonist's pen. A rotten country. This cartoon is Steve's favorite. The Revolutionary Army and night raids in it are the glory of human nature. Is this not consistent with his statistical philosophy that he chose to defend the peace and overthrow the head of state and destroy the Hydra? Everything is for the peace of the world, and the freedom and equality of the people and the Lord is what mankind should enjoy. The simplicity of Tajmi reminds Steve of the past, the same weakness in his buddy, Buggy, who accompanied him step by step to the incomparably dark abyss. They firmly believe that the world can be saved. So I think this cartoonist Sumo is very talented, and I want to come to experience the darkness of the world. Listening to Steve's endless preaching of the brilliance of comics, Sumo is so talented, he guessed that he was being oppressed by the darkness. Advertisement Minister Bulletin Slot. What does it mean to see the darkness of the world? Isn't it just sending two small departments into the company's monitoring, and not robbing, not fighting, and unsealing? This is what kind of bullying? Shouldn't the darkness be the Sumo? There are always signs that this cartoonist with a pragmatic face and gentle face is the big boss hiding behind the scenes. Nick Fury became more angry as he listened, his dark face was already crimson, blue veins burst out of his forehead and wrist, his hands clasped the two corners of the podium tightly. However, Steve didn't realize this, and he was still speaking in a serious manner. I also saw the news that this cartoonist also participated in the opening ceremony of the Hero Academy. This Hero Academy really happened at the right time. Olmert makes people feel safe, nothing is okay, don't be afraid. Why? Because I came here more than the words of who is the strong and brave, the man who saves the United States, the fierce and ambitious Star-Spangled Banner. There is a sense of substitution. Speaking of last, Steve also complained about being a super soldier, instead of being sent directly to the battlefield. Instead, he became a tool to destroy the national debt. He chanted inspiring lines on the stage and twisted his tall body. It was simply his life. Black history. The agent who was closer below heard the words and immediately covered his mouth and laughed, praising the comic in front of Nick Fury is really, boom. Boom. Enough, shut up. Nick Fury stood up suddenly, slapped the table angrily, his eyes were bloodshot, he roared hysterically, and the pale breath overflowed from his mouth, like a mad bull. His heart is broken. It was so horrible and terrifying that he felt like he was dreaming. Never expected that Captain Steve, who was a hero, would have been praising Shield and even the enemy of the Western world. Why is this, why? Nick Fury shouted to the sky, which was completely different from what he imagined. Steve's appearance in his vision should be to contend with the Met chamber, and now he is even complaining about the classic of World War II. The songbook turned to praise the enemy. Nick, what's the matter with you? Steve was immediately startled by the roar, weakly confused. He looked at Nick Fury's red face as if he was watching a life and death enemy, secretly confused whether he interrupted work. After thinking about it, he should be very busy as the director of SHIELD, and he really didn't want to listen to him talking about comics here. Steve silently stuffed the comic book into a plastic bag and prepared to turn away. Advertisement, however, with a pop, the plastic bag was slapped and held by Nick Fury's big hand. Nick, I'm sorry to say this during your working hours. Steve glanced at it and said in dissatisfaction, No, don't let me take it away. Nick Fury heard the words, his eyes were a little moist, and his apology was not sincere, not to mention that he was angry for this reason. In fact, his management is relatively lax at work. For example, a little fat guy secretly played thunder and lightning to fly a plane, and he opened one eye and closed one eye. Don't be angry. It's not Captain Steve's fault. It's all because he didn't prepare well. He didn't expect the charm of comics to be so great. Of course it does look good. Nick Fury desperately swallowed the anger in his heart, trying to adjust to the bottom. But he couldn't hold it anymore. Nick Fury stared at Steve's eyes, and said in a low voice, Captain, do you want to treason? Clam? Steve was stunned on the spot. Why can there be so many things involved in reading a comic? This hat can't be buckled. Nick Fury took a deep breath and said solemnly like never before, Captain, come with me. I considered that your waking time was too short. Now I must let you know. In the command room, Nick Fury had already pulled Steve towards the side room. Some agents let out a series of low-pitched laughter. Among them, a fat agent secretly pulled out a friend mank from his sleeve. Great, I can read comics again when the chief is not here, the captain is good, this week is a new comic again. Fat me's read it, and in the new series of Food Hunter by the Boy Jump, there are also new comics released in the separate book. The 7 Deadly Sins, it looks good. The fat man glanced at the 7 different people on the cover and muttered. Yes, I think it's good too. A familiar voice suddenly came from behind, and the next moment his ears were picked up. Commander Hill directly pulled the fat man in the corner and beat him up and made people laugh. As for why he was not fired, because the fat man's grandfather was a member of the Security Council. It's true that I'm here to cross the golden days. Chapter 169. Hey, this protagonist is so short and lustful is like Suemo. Misaka Mikoto sat on the sofa and spread out the comic book to comment on the characters inside. Suemo listened to the black line beside him, and snatched it in angrily, don't look at it. Who said that? I am responsible for the majority of comic fans. Misaka Mikoto's face bulged, and he easily grabbed it back between flashes of lightning. Suemo shook his head when he saw this, and walked to the rooftop. Misaka Mikoto turned the comics with a smile. The story of the 7 Deadly Sins tells the journey of the 7 deadly sins of the 7 deadly knights, the third Queen Elizabeth, who pinned her hopes on the 7 deadly sins in order to save the country. The length of the comics can only be said to be not long, but only a little longer than One Punch. The second season of the previous life anime has caught up with the comics. In the beginning, the story of the princess looking for someone to save the country 170s has later turned into the concept of jointly saving the world and even involving gods. The protagonist is Meliodas, the owner of the mobile tavern Pig Hat Pavilion, who runs in partnership with Hawk, and the cooking is awful. Move around in order to find lost members. When I met the Prince Elizabeth, I often acted on her, as did her dead lover Liz before, and she never made any moves against other women. Later, Manmai guessed that it was because it was the reincarnation of the same person, which was so alike. In ancient times, he was the eldest son of the demon god. During the jihad of the 4 clans besieging the demon god clan, he betrayed the demon god clan because of his loved ones, and killed the 2 original 10 rings, causing the demon god clan to be completely sealed. Later, when he was the head of the paladins of a certain country 16 years ago, he fell in love with Liz, the spy of the enemy country. One day, seeing the death of his lover, Meliodas lost his mind because of anger, destroyed the country, and left behind. The huge pit, which is 30,000 feet deep, still retains magic power until the beginning of the plot. In this comic, the protagonist has a very distinct personality. He makes a choice for love. Any race, country, or even the world can be discarded. There is only a lover in the eyes. Such a love-hate and contradictory protagonist became a hit in the animation at the time. Misaka Mikoto's handbook has only 8 words. Only 8 words describe the character and power of Meliodas, which makes her hooked. The start of the 7 deadly sins is not the gradual escalation of the protagonist of the scum, but the regaining of his own power in the salvation of the country and the world. In the first part, we can often see one-sided crushing plots, but there are scenes full of crisis and battles that are even more broken. The plot of the entire comic is relatively compact, and almost Gigi has something to watch. Advertisement hold the grass. Just as Misaka Mikoto was addicted to comics, Sumo's face changed slightly while standing on the rooftop. This is the first time that characters are drawn as soon as it is released. The captive who is not a gourmet is the protagonist of the 7 deadly sins, Meliodas. The appearance of a child is completely different from the wanted order. He had short golden hair, dull hair on his head, green pupils, a black dress with gold stars facing each other, and a broken sword on his back. Yo, Sumo, this is New World. Meliodas appeared casually, his hands on the back of his head and looked around. Well, it exaggerates the world where the gods exist more than the demon clan. Sumo stroked his chin and slightly lowered his head to look at the child Meliodas, who was over 3,000 years old. The appearance of Meliodas from the period is very subtle, and it is the stage of the demon clan's defeat and sealing that only mentioned in the background of the comics. Meliodas is in a hostile attitude and the attitude has begun to rise, which is a complex personality characteristic. Its strength is really hard to say. According to the comics, the richer the emotion, the weaker, and it will become extraordinarily strong when you lose yourself ruthlessly. Its strength is really hard to say. According to the comics, the richer the emotion, the weaker, and it will become extraordinarily strong when you lose yourself ruthlessly. Perhaps it is said that it is the most powerful to truly change back to the demon god clan. If this is to be inferred, the current Meliodas is not up and down, and he has not yet encountered leads. The strength should be stronger than the beginning of the plot. Not to mention the fact that the power of the demon clan is sealed because of 2 strong troubles. He should have the top 10 commandments in the later period. Level. The demon race? It doesn't matter. Meliodas had a certain way to see through the red dust, his eyes exuding a sense of vicissitudes made Sumo speechless. It's no wonder that I had nothing to do in the back and ran to be the leader of the ordinary paladins, which was regarded as the mountain forest of the retreat. Let's go, introduce a few companions to you. Sumo patted his short shoulder, and disappeared. Meliodas raised his eyebrows, followed closely behind him. At this time, the word companion was not in his dictionary. Saitama has been doing sit-ups on the lawn according to the strange training method. On one side, Jin Wuan lay on the lawn with eyes absent. He was abused again today. The baby felt bitter but didn't say anything. Saitama, get acquainted, Meliodas has the power of the devil. Sumo flashed beside them and introduced them. Advertisement Meliodas doesn't look at Saitama's training like that is mediocre, but he was a lot stronger before. Speaking of which, your emotions are gradually disappearing when you 2 gain strength. Sumo thoughtfully said that Meliodas was in the strongest state of apathy at the beginning, while Saitama was in the process of getting stronger, and there was no need to show emotions. What an interesting training method, Meliodas said with interest. He paused and said, Sumo, I want to know the level of combat power in this world. In this world, he can't distinguish the strength of the individual by fighting the ranks. Even if he is a salted fish, he has to stand on his heels. As a demon clan, he knows the weak and the strong. It's very simple, just a fight. Sumo looked sideways to Meliodas and said, otherwise, you can't see it. Only gods in this world are qualified for Tenten leisurely paddling. Other than that things are coming to the head. Sumo doesn't know how many things he has encountered when he travels here. Trouble always comes quietly, and he doesn't leave. With you. Meliodas also turned around and looked up at Sumo, grinning at a 0.1 corner angle. I won't be merciful. Sumo unbuttoned his wrists, and his eager expression floated on his face, just to try the power he possessed. I can't ask for it. Saitama didn't want to exercise either, and quickly got up and stood on the sidelines with Jin Wuan. They have never seen Sumo's full output, and they always feel that the aura will become stronger every once in a while. It's coming. Bang. As soon as the voice fell, the surface under Meliodas' feet collapsed into a pothole, and the whole person shot out like a cannonball. Breaking evil and showing righteousness one day. The thick white light gathered in the fist, Sumo suddenly threw an uppercut. Chapter 170. The thick white light gathered on the fist, the magic power was tumbling surgingly, Sumo's face calmly threw an uppercut forward. Breaking evil and showing righteousness one day. Suddenly, the atomic connections of particles in the air in front of Sumo were shattered, white waves burst out from his fists, and the space suddenly became cold. Seeing this, Meliodas drew the broken sword from behind, and the purple-black flame from hell suddenly wrapped around the broken sword, slashing forward violently. The roaring flame of an angry dragon burst out from the sword, and the fiery high temperature burned the air with a scorching smell. Boom! One purple and one white collided, and the majestic turbulence of energy began to explode and squeeze the air to escape and form a vacuum. The particles kept shattering, and the hot flames slapped like waves. The air was entrained with interlaced energy and turned into a storm, and the Earth's surface was constantly cracking, and cracks like a dense network of beads spread in all directions. Smoke and dust were everywhere, and a faint grey mist filled the air. The white light flickered in it, Meliodas and Sumo turned into meteors and kept colliding with each other, and the air rings kept blowing up. Boom! 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 In just a moment, the soft green lawn was smashed into pits and pits. 29 deafening roars echoed in this area at all times. Jin Wuyan's face was directly dull, and he muttered to himself, "I can't see it at all. It's not full force yet." Saitama saw clearly and shook his head. Just this little place is not a good place to stand. Breaking evil and showing righteousness tuition. The air was trembling, and when the white light was vast, it was Sumo's smashing fist. The magic power far surpassed the previous crushing power was madly poured out in mid-air, like a vast ocean raising huge waves in the sky. Meliodas, who was stagnant in mid-air, did not change his face, raised his hand, and said flatly, "Countervanish, countervanish." Suddenly, the ocean of magic power suddenly disappeared out of thin air, and only the faint magic power remained to prove that it had surging before. Sumo stepped in the air and his eyes flickered, and the counterattack demise can disappear all the offensive magic power towards him, but subject to its upper limit, it seems that Meliodas has much more magic power than him. After a short while, Meliodas appeared in front of Sumo, swiping the flames of hell and biting away like a snake. The 81 of Bakut splitting void. A huge transparent wall rose up, and the purple snake slammed on it fiercely and frequently shattered the splitting void in his neighing voice, and the sound of clicking broke like glass. Advertisement. However, the python has now become a small snake after being obstructed, with no momentum and extremely dim flames. Sumo waved out his hand and gave up chanting, the 88 of had flying thunder and thunder cannons. A huge blue-white light beam burst out from the palm of the hand like a bridge to the sky, extinguishing the flames like a bridge, and blazed towards Meliodas. Meliodas, who fell back to the ground, once again swung his broken sword, not the blazing flames of hell, but a volley, and the mysterious wave suddenly burst, causing the beam of light to stop between Sumo's startled jaws. Immediately after the beam condensed into extreme energy, the sphere burst back and shot out to directly attack Sumo. How is it possible that this spiritual power is not magic power? Sumo's face changed slightly. This was a full counterattack, a move that bounced all the offensive magic power towards him back several times more powerful. But how can he bounce head back? This is unscientific. Sumo didn't have time to think, the long-lost white wave ball was thrown away, and then disappeared in place. The two white balls collided in mid-air, and the extreme energy, like a violent beast, began to roar into the sky. Hurricanes swept away. Jin Wuyan couldn't open his eyes against the gale while Saitama's eyes glowed. Not far away, Villa number 2 was affected. The sound of crunching overwhelmed. Sumo stood up in front of the villa with a splitting void casually to avoid being affected and set off, and asked Meliodas doubtfully, "Is this a full counterattack?" "My magic power does not mean magic. Magic power is just a source of extraordinary power, and it will show different effects according to the spirit and will of the user." There was a touch of joy between Meliodas' eyebrows, and he thoughtfully said, "So my full counterattack looked normal in the world before, but in this new world it can be manifested as a rebound non-physical attack." There was a touch of joy between Meliodas' eyebrows, and he thoughtfully said, "So my full counterattack looked normal in the world before, but in this new world it can be manifested as a rebound non-physical attack. So it doesn't matter whether it is the magic, energy shock, or even the mysterious fluctuations of this world, it is the same. It's that thermal weapons can't rebound. This is really comprehensive, so that even the mind storm or mind control and soul are also in the rebound. Meliodas' magic power is very huge. It is completely Fey Nemesis. Suemo raised his brows, knowing that if you don't use Ashura mode, you can't break the limit of full counterattack. Go to an alien planet, you can't let go of your hands and feet here. Suemo looked at the devastated lawn. He could no longer see a touch of greenery. Now he has already surpassed the time when he saw the purple sweet potato essence. Type. Meliodas nodded indifferently, just wanting to see what the alien planet was like. Before Suemo took out any door, an extremely concealed aura hovered around, and the obscure soul fluctuations flashed by in his spiritual network perception. Ling Luo perception is to learn the extended use of spiritual power, and the visualization looks like a ribbon of aura. Shinigami's spiritual network is red, and human spiritual network is white. In his perception, Meliodas might be black because of the devil, Saitama, and Jin Huiyan are both white, and the two colors that have just passed by are black and white. Advertisement. Hey! Meliodas wondered why Suemo stood still and asked. Uninvited guests should come out, playing peeping is not your style. Suemo pretended to shout loudly, patrolling any movement around. Meliodas also quickly placed the broken sword in front of him to guard. Saitama and Jin Huiyan were at a loss, and found nothing unusual. The breeze blew gently, and the remaining tender grass in every corner swayed with the wind, looking extremely quiet. Then don't blame me for being impolite. Sumo's face is ugly. If anyone is peeped, he will be ashamed and angry. He doesn't know how long this person has been watching, and Skynet can't detect it. The web of black and white, 22 bridges, 66 crown belts, footprints, distant thunders, sharp peaks, return to the ground, nightfalls, sea of clouds, blue cues, paint Taiyuan completely and go straight to the sky. 423. The 77 of Baka. The sky is quite empty. Hey! The dark blue spiritual power is formed by the intertwined light beams. Suemo raised his hand to the sky. The blazing blue laser rushed into the sky, and in the next instant it burst into countless spiritual powers that fell at a rapid speed, and at the same time disappeared. Like a small pebble thrown in a calm lake, ripples swayed, and a reef that was inconspicuously integrated into the whole world was suddenly touched by the water. Suemo looked at a corner, took out a dark red object from his arms, and threw it abruptly. Go on, Kurama! The crimson object flew out in midair at great speed, and everyone took a closer look at it. Turned out to be a living thing. Hey! Who would dare to disturb the old man's sleep? Stretching his limbs while constantly expanding and expanding, he instantly became a huge fox beast, but found himself blowing in a cool breeze. 9 tails roared like thunder. Roar! In the void at the end of its route, a figure wearing a large white robe appeared, waving at will. Everything around it began to turn over, and the space was directly shattered and divided into pieces of lenses. The dilapidated lawn and villa number 2 were shifted, and some floated in the air. Upside down, left and right interchanged, the world is changed only in an instant. Such a terrifying means is like a god. Suemo was not surprised when he saw this, but calmed down, and said with a blank expression, Sorcerer Supreme Ancient One. Chapter 171. As Ancient One played with a folding fan slowly stepping out of the void, waving everyone into the mirrored space. The delicate face is a pair of eyes full of wisdom that see through everything in the world. She is the current Sorcerer Supreme, and the Eye of Agamotto is the owner of the Time Gem. Bug, go to hell! Kurama only felt as if he was thrown out in a glimpse, and a human appeared in its sight, and his anger was directly transferred and vented. The huge body instantly traversed a long distance, lifting up the huge sharp claws emitting cold light and directly slammed them down. Tearing the air and making a humming sound, the Sorcerer Supreme Ancient One felt the wind pressure before the claws arrived, but she was unmoved. Click! The small folding fan was directly pulled open, raised and swung down, and little sparks floated in the air. A red light circle struck directly, and mysterious and obscure patterns appeared, forming a magic shield for one stop. Boom! Amidst the thunderous sound, the magic shield resolutely resisted the heavy claw attack, and the white robe was hunted by the violent wind. Roar! Seeing this, Nine Tails, who was angry about getting up, roared at Ancient One in anger, and waved the other paw. The Ancient One mage hurriedly slapped the void, and the ground under his feet began to turn over, and a complex pattern appeared and engraved on it, and suddenly Ancient One disappeared. Kurama waved for a while, and looked around in surprise and saw no ants in the surroundings. In the eyes of Suemo and others, Ancient One turned the ground directly over and stood at Kurama's feet, forming an absolute blind spot for the fox in question. Immediately after Ancient One waved his hands again and again, the ground under his feet began to change, and the rumbling turned into a huge mouth and swallowed Kurama into a sphere. Jumping into the air on one side, a long corridor of marble pieces appeared out of nowhere. Ancient One thought that after dealing with the beast, Yun Qingfeng said lightly, "You are more alert than I expected." Of course, she didn't arrive early, and she didn't expect to be caught by someone as soon as she came to cover her breath. To be honest, it was a bit embarrassing, but the passage of thousands of years did not let Ancient One loose a bit. Since Saitama and Odin caused a tsunami-like energy tide to spread to the earth when Saitama and Odin faced off on the planet, Ancient One used the eyes of Agamadha to observe the cause of the event. Unexpectedly, it stopped abruptly when it was traced back to Sumo. As a Kamatage holy artifact, there were times when he missed it. Advertisement: this is a man who can't penetrate even time. Ancient One didn't come to the door rashly after being puzzled, but fell silent. Today's visit was also a temporary motive. Sumo heard the words, his eyes flashed, and he said calmly, "You should take care of my pet first, it looks like he is very upset." Kurama is not an ordinary beast with a huge body, but the first of the 9 big-tailed beasts. This is not even a seal of planetary devastation. It seems that Sorcerer Supreme is really a little underestimated. As soon as the voice fell, the entire earth ball began to collapse into smashing rubble falling from the sky. Damn it! Kurama broke free from the ball hysterically, his eyes burst into flames, his feet stepped on the gravel while he was furious, and his blood basin opened his mouth. ZZ. A large amount of energy is drawn away from the space, composed of black chakra yang and white chakra yin, which changes the shape of one's chakra to the extreme, and mixes and compresses it into a black belt in the mouth with a ratio of yin and yang of 2:8. The red superdensity ball formed in Kurama's mouth. A large amount of energy is drawn away from the space, composed of black chakra yang and white chakra yin, which changes the shape of one's chakra to the extreme, and mixes and compresses it into a black band in the mouth with a ratio of yin and yang of 2:8. The red superdensity ball formed in Kurama's mouth. Suddenly, the small ball burst out from the mouth to form a columnar black and red beam, tearing apart all the obstacles on the way, and came to Ancient One in an instant. Ancient One's face changed slightly, his heart palpitated, and he didn't expect Kurama to break through the seal of a quaint magical giant wall and take shape in a blink of an eye. Feeling almost, immediately after flipping his hands, the surface of the building in front of him began to flash in an unprecedentedly complex copy style. A little bit of golden light was transmitted to the magic wall. After the magic cast by Ancient One, the characteristic of firmness was added again and again, and the wall exuded a dazzling light. Rumble! The tail beast cannon slammed on the surface of the wall, and the dense and cracked bead nets opened directly. The beam of light continued to vent the majestic energy, causing the magic wall to begin to sway and collapse, like a tender grass in the wind and rain. After a stalemate, the lack of stamina of the tailed beast bomb gradually dissipated, and at the same time the magic wall shattered and dissipated with a bang. Kurama jumped in front of Ancient one by one, so the trick was repeated and swung his claws again. Sumo shook his head secretly when he saw this. Ancient One's current strength should be considered as the tip of the iceberg has not been fully displayed, not to mention that there is an undefeated weapon like Time Gem. Advertisement: Kurama's full power is totally unable to cope with Sorcerer Supreme, who is serious. If he couldn't get up, this time Ancient One didn't expand the shield and knew that this thing was not an ordinary beast, and his mentality changed from being casual to being serious about monsters of different dimensions. I saw Ancient One wielding 2 long whips far beyond Dr. Destruction's magical attainments, swinging seemingly slender whips and hitting his paws. Roar! Kurama's eating pain came from his paws, and Ding Qing roared when he saw the bloodstains deep into the flesh and blood appeared on the surface of the body. The black and red-tailed beast bomb fired continuously from Zhangdaka, and they lined up in an orderly manner and attacked quickly. Drink! Ancient One's left hand is lightly raised, and endless magic power is drawn from different dimensions, forming a spear with gleaming black luster between the flames. The spear, surrounded by dark power, carried a terrifying aura of destruction, and set off a huge tornado. The entire mirrored space began to tremble again and again, as if it was about to collapse in the next moment. On the side, Sumo smacked his tongue secretly. It is worthy of being a character who has been guarding the world with a god-like domum for thousands of years. If only this strength has already hammered the rebel Cassilis in the movie, it is 80% hope. It can know the way back. Good promise. A dark spear, like a black spot in the sky, instantly penetrated the word sequence tailed beast bomb. The tailed beast bomb, which had originally touched and exploded, spread out from the center point and quietly disintegrated. After piercing the tailed beast bomb, I came to Kurama the next moment and frightened it. The unfavorable tailed beast bomb was directly scrapped. It was too late to dodge and had to take it with both arms. Head down. Sumo's voice came from his ear, and he subconsciously squatted down, and saw Sumo flash up to the top of Kurama's head, waved a crimson spear and pierced the nearby spear of destruction. Pierce the spear of death thorn. Armed color. Weird power. Air shock. A white light envelopes the spear, and it pierced into the air before it even touched the tip of the spear. In Ancient One's astonishment, the space was as dense as glass with dense cracks opening between the two. Time is stagnant, shot and shot close at hand but separated forever. Chapter 172. Click. Click. The air frequently heard harsh sounds like glass shattering. After a moment of stalemate, a shocking energy storm suddenly erupted from the midpoint of a shot and a spear, which suddenly spread in all directions, and the vast shock wave suddenly shattered everything around it. Kurama's fox head was buried deep underground, and then the strong air pressure caused him to collapse into a hole. A violent hurricane rushed forward, and the three of Meliodas stood unbelieving and retreated directly by the sudden aftermath. The sound of click continued, and it continued to expand for the next moment like cracks in glass that spread all over the sky. Immediately after bang, the entire mirrored space was smashed like a hammer. Suddenly, the upside-down scene suddenly became extremely normal, the world returned, and everyone looked at the two volleys facing each other. The spear of dark destruction began to disintegrate directly on the spot, and collapsed again and again, and the dark substance that pierced the spear of Deaththorn also dissipated. The sharp tip of the spear trembles and wails, and the whole looks like it has lost its spirituality and is dim. No light fell down. Sumo didn't have time to think about other things. The unparalleled reaction force acting on his body flew upside down like a cannonball across the sky and crashed into the distant mountains, tearing through the thick rock and planted in. An Ancient One only retreated 3 steps in mid-air, the indifferent color on his face had disappeared, and 163 appeared in the cave between the flashes. The strength of Ancient One is a bit strange. It feels like it doesn't dare to let go of the restraint of oneself. Is it because the battlefield is on the earth, so it's not easy to do it? Sumo shook his head and neck, staring deeply at the light red mark on Sorcerer Supreme's forehead that appeared in front of him. His eyes suddenly flashed with an inexplicable color. Ancient One, you who guard the material world keep asking for darkness, and darkness will come and take your life. That's right, Ancient One is dying. Sumo remembered that the Ancient One in the movie came to an end shortly after meeting Steven, and his body couldn't bear too much dark energy and finally died like Odin. Although the big characters in the Marvel Universe are more powerful than those shown in the movie, the plot trend is the same. Ancient One is different from the old dead Odin. The energy from the dark dimension is constantly attacking the body, and while using it, it is constantly bewitched by Domum. While absorbing dark energy day and night, Ancient One's spirit and will are tormented and stick to herself. She is not a god like Odin. Ancient One is just a human being. While using dark energy to gain power and life, he is also affected by it. She can only cast small and medium-sized spells in front of the student, Kubai, which is powerful and never appears lightly. Apprentices have speculated that if the power is too great, they will worry about destroying everything. Advertisement actually otherwise, Sumo would know why when he saw Ancient One directly call the dark to shape the spear. She is afraid that the apprentice will know the truth, the dark energy has been integrated with Ancient One, and her secret will be revealed when she flips over. At the same time, it is used more frequently and more powerfully, which means that Ancient One is one step closer to the limit. Therefore, Ancient One didn't use all her strength, she couldn't use it or dared to use it. You really surprised me, it seems that everything can't be hidden from you, Sumo. Ancient One squeezed the undamaged folding fan in his hand and said with a wry smile. Your partner is really strong. At the same time, Meliodas, who appeared on Ancient One's side waist, spread his hair, his eyes and pupils became pure black, half of his body was covered by black Madara patterns, and his face exuded a cold murderous aura and locked onto Ancient One. The demonization of Meliodas made Ancient One feel the power of Domum, the Lord of the Dark Dimension, which is why she came to find out. Although Meliodas is extremely powerful among ordinary people, it is almost in the eyes of Ancient One. What makes her shudder is the bald man Saitama behind, looking at Ancient One with a dull face. What kind of power is hidden under the ordinary sturdy figure? What makes her shudder is the bald man Saitama behind, looking at Ancient One with a dull face. What kind of power is hidden under the ordinary sturdy figure? At this moment Ancient One stunned. Suemo smiled when he saw this. He never felt that Qiu was a shameless method, otherwise, how could he have wanted to use an apology to deal with Thanos in the first place? Besides, is this his strength? No, it's far more than that. Shock Fruit, One Piece, Monster Force, Naruto, Fate and Nine Tails were all drawn together with Meliodas. Sumo's biggest trump card is the Ashura mode, which was vividly shown in the battle against Thanos. The different degrees of doubling of one after the other gave him a good point. Now his passive skills are full, and his active skills are much stronger than before. In this way, the situation is doubled as much as Dragon Ball's Kaioken. Suemo really wanted to try if he could touch the edge of Heavenly Father in this situation. Coupled with the help of Saitama, even though it has not yet recovered, it is a perfect sandbag for Ancient One, who is afraid of being lavish and weaker than Odin. Faced with the ill-intentioned light from the three of them, Ancient One palpitated instinctively. She was seen to be weak, and she forced a smile and bit her scalp indifferently. Advertisement: I'm not here to be your enemy. Oh, peeking is not what Sorcerer Supreme should do. Suemo sarcastically said softly. Now that he calmed down, he also thought that Ancient One should have been discovered as soon as he arrived, otherwise, how could his soul fluctuations be exposed? However, the eyes of Agamadha did not appear on the neck, it seemed that it was in Kamatai-heim. But of course you speak from your own favorable situation, and making the other party feel guilty is the basis of negotiation. Peep, you should know what's going on, it doesn't count. Do you want to say that the prying is attempted? Seeing Ancient One without fighting spirit, Sumo's thoughts about entering the Ashura mode also disappeared, but a further mockery. I'm here for him and feel the power of Domum. I don't want Domum to threaten the material world. The Ancient One mage turned his head and sighed to Meliodas, who had returned to normal. That said, I have to thank you for running in a circle. Ancient One couldn't hold the nerves on his face at all, and some of his anger was quickly suppressed, and he inhaled and exhaled. Whatever you say, the tasteless battle is just meaningless. I wanted to die in the future. Lie down and meet you. See me. Suemo squinted suspiciously after hearing this. Pull him down to the funeral before dying? No, what kind of grudge? Ancient One knew what Suemo was thinking at a glance, closed the fan and sighed. I prevent countless things that can destroy the world, but there will always be more terrifying disasters. I originally pinned it on my successor, but I found that the eyes of Agamotto couldn't see your past, present, and future. As long as you are involved, things will become vague in the future, which makes me happy. While talking, Ancient One walked out of the cave and floated in the air to look at the scorching sun, with an unprecedented smile on his face. Hiss, this light. My eyes are clear. In the light of the sun, Ancient One's smooth and round head reflected a dazzling light, making Saitama, who didn't know the atmosphere, rubbed his eyes and screamed, finally knowing why others hate bald heads. Suddenly, the scene was a little embarrassing, and Suemo was also depressed how quickly this man became a fox for thousands of years like Odin. Chapter 173. Ancient One's forehead wrinkled and his hands were tightly clenched. The folding fan groaned uncomfortably and threw it directly down, and his eyes glared at Saitama viciously. Why should bald head be embarrassed by bald head? Isn't it glaring? No feeling. Meliodas, who was on the back of his head with both hands, said to Saitama with a confused face. Saitama was very ignorant and didn't stop it. Instead, he vowed to say, just stand here. Upon hearing Ancient One, her numb heart made her not know what expression to face, and she simply stepped back on the ground again, covered it with a dry cough. No. Meliodas touched his chin, feeling unconscious. Well. I didn't know that just when I turned around, there was a strong light shining into my eyes. Suemo murmured inwardly, enough, are you too deliberately or really nasty? She turned to Ancient One and asked, I don't see any joy in this. This is not a reason to peep. Can you stop talking about peeping, or just wanting to say that Sorcerer Supreme is a voyeur? Ancient One calmed down his anger, and said calmly, because you are a variable. The Earth and even the universe will face unprecedented disasters in the original long river of time. I can only rely on the successor to find a tiny bit of vitality from it. And found that you can bring infinite variables to this world that is about to fall into danger. Ancient One fully understands everything about Suemo through the New York Temple. I look forward to the future of the world. Whether it is the release of comics, personal connections, and the appearance of suspected comic characters, they are adding one variable after another to the world. Advertisement. It was originally a tan stagnant water waiting for the final smelly and exhausted end. Sumo's appearance is to pick up the pole and stir in the water again and again. It would be of great benefit to the whole world to revitalize it in this way. Sumo was silent for a moment, and he also knew what Ancient One was thinking. When he met before his death, he probably wanted to see how handsome he was, but he didn't expect to be attracted by Meliodas in advance. Alas, the world is really unfair to him. Sumo raised his head 40 degrees as if he saw a god among the clouds admiring his humility. Ancient One doesn't know Sumo's shamelessness, but really thinks about it. My purpose has come, Sumo, you can't do anything to harm the earth, otherwise I will kill you, even if I'm in hell. Listening to Ancient One's admonition, Sumo smiled disdainfully and snorted coldly, I'm a cartoonist who needs to watch my comics. The broken earth is not good for me at all. Why don't you have such a leisurely mind in Ancient One? Take care of your apprentice. There are only 3 true disciples of Ancient One. One rebels, and the other will rebel in the future. Only Stephen, a half-man who was a monk, won the Sorcerer Supreme one. It can be said that I really would not be a teacher. It can be said that I really would not be a teacher. This is the best. Ignore the Ancient One in the second half of the sentence, and raised his hand in a circle. A portal sputtered by sparks appeared in the space, and a white snow scene appeared on the opposite side of the door. Then Ancient One stepped in expressionlessly, and the white figure merged into it and appeared on Mount Everest in the other hemisphere in a blink of an eye, and then the circle shrank directly until it disappeared. An anticlimactic battle. Sumo shook his head and thought, greeted Meliodas and Saitama to return to the villa. Now the warm lawn is completely invisible, and the house is a bit deformed. Jin Wuyan was unable to keep up with her ability to clean up the debris with Ji Luoxi on the flat ground. It's really a meaningless battle. It seems that it can be figured out at the beginning, but what is called Ancient One is not coming out. I think that magic is hidden and invincible, and I really treat others as a chicken. Advertisement. See you next time. I have to make a claim. Ancient One is really a deduction. Sumo walked forward, the crimson spear stuck in the soil without the heroic posture when he pulled it out. It felt very ordinary. This is broken? It's a bit brittle. Sumo touched his chin, not as strong as Edmund Alloy. Suddenly, he remembered something and took out a flashlight from the warehouse apart from anything else. In this way, the flashlight can be restored. According to the setting, the item can be returned to the material, that is, when it is not built, but the effects of Doraemon's things in Marvel are somewhat different. Sumo directly took a shot at the spear of Death Thorn, and a faint wave of light radiated from it, as if the spear was flowing backwards in time. Finally got stuck in one place, and after waiting for a while, there was no change before turning off the power. The faint red light lingering on the gun body returned to its previous appearance, which surprised Sumo. This off-track function is better than expected. Sumo, can your flashlight shine on my head? Saitama appeared and asked at this time, with hope in his eyes. Saitama, your head is not an industrial product. Sumo had to break Saitama's hope. But there is a time cloth in Doraemon. Sumo, a letter from the Hero Academy, saying that the war has started. Chapter 174. Hero Academy Conference Room. All members of the X-Men on the ring table are seated here. Lorna is on either side of the main seat, Charles and All Matt. The door to the meeting room was opened, and Sumo walked in slowly to see his demeanor as if he was here for fun. The most recent Storm girl turned over. Byakugan said silently, please at least be a little nervous, okay? Sumo directly moved a small stool and sat beside Lorna, shrugging helplessly, but I can't feel anything to be nervous. Glancing around, you can say that the Academy's strong points are here, and deliberately joked, it looks really nervous. Hank, what are you doing? Sumo also saw Beast Hank, who was in the shape of Huewu, sipping coffee at ease. Ahem, I am enjoying the last peaceful time. Sumo, you must know this is a war. Beast Hank's dark blue pupils stared at Sumo's 503 and continued, this time they are going to do it. In the past few days, the Antidote Company frequently promoted the theory of variant or disease to the audience on various small radio stations. This is a nonsense post-dinner talk. However, behind the scenes are the White House and the military of the United States, relying on the national machine disease theory to occupy major radio stations, and a large number of naval forces are spreading on the internet. Even some of the experts and scholars who had previously waived in gene theory changed their positions and embraced the other side. In just a few days, the people were gradually affected as if they were brainwashed. As the saying goes, the common people are the easiest part to be deceived. At the beginning, I believed in the theory of genes, and now I am confused on the side of the theory of diseases. These people are not a minority. At the same time, some follow-up media directly moved out past mutant crime cases to prove the necessity of the antidote. Obviously, the emergence of mutant heroes has reduced the crime rate and avoided talking about it. Instead, it revisited the past, and directly listed the number of crimes committed by mutants each year in the past. Oh, I can't believe that the neighbor's child is sick and looks like a bamboo rat. I hope he can go to Alcatraz to receive the antidote. I also found a kid playing basketball with a pair of black wings directly behind his back. It feels disgusting, like a bat. You have to be careful, this is the rhythm of becoming a vampire. No, I think your ID is a bit familiar, isn't it just a post in the Hero Academia forum a while ago that I envy people with wings? Advertisement: the truth is upstairs, he is just like a wall of grass, I just feel sick. Is there any scientific basis to show that the variant is a disease? It is obviously genes that cause unbelief. I don't want the antidote to be released. You have to know that many heroes nowadays are mutants. If they are taken away by criminals and made into bullets, what should I do? That's right, no one will guard the world in the end. Is it possible that the Wehrmacht that counts on shit? The above is almost the hot daily routine these days, and it seems to be divided into two factions. One faction does not know why they grab the appearance of low-level mutants and criticize them. The other faction stood firm and insisted on advocating the theory of mutant genes. Its supporters were Wah-8gate. Some simply liked it, while others thanked the heroes for their dedication and so on. Public opinion is skyrocketing, and more people are participating in the discussion. Some mutants become even more angry when they know it, destroying the venting of anger and causing the antidote to gain the upper hand. Today, Hank, as the director of the Mutant Affairs Department, was told that the White House was going to make a statement as the antidote company's open platform. This represents the complete tearing of the Hero Academy and the White House. Before this, I was grinning on my lips, MMP in my heart, both sides knew it well, but now I don't even need to pretend. Understand the solution to this group of mutants. Understand the solution to this group of mutants. Hank continued in a low tone, I hope the White House will not get involved, but they did not respond, so I resigned directly and returned to the college. The Mutant Affairs Department is the communication channel between the Hero Academy and the White House. Even after the Stryker incident, Charles did not directly send Hank back. He just hoped that the White House would be more sensible. Obviously some people don't take it seriously, stubbornly believing that Saitama has disappeared and Sumo and the Hero Academia have no backing. There are many smart people in the world, and there are countless people who have seen and lost their brains. The Magneto has already recruited many mutants and the Brotherhood. I'm afraid it will declare war on them in just a few days. Then, when Wolverine Luo, who was in the audience for a long time, wanted to say that he was found and killed, Yu Guang glanced at the smiling Lorna on the main seat and was speechless. Now it seems that the place of the decisive battle is the Alcatraz Island where the antidote company is located. Chin, who was next to Professor Charles, answered Logan and at the same time cast a wink at the past. The laser eye on the side was very awkward, he always felt that the two of them were ghosts. Chin has been getting more and more gorgeous recently, always dazzling with Wolverine. If Tenten was in the academy without laser eyes, maybe something would happen in the early morning theater. Advertisement Sumo side for the laser eye, love is the green light and the life is still there. At this time in the movie, the laser eye is afraid that it is already colored. Chin was penetrated too deeply by the Black Phoenix, and he didn't know why he was always dying. It seemed that the Black Phoenix had only recently broken through the cage. Sumo is actually not worried about the antidote incident but cares about the Black Phoenix. In his previous life, some people said that the Black Phoenix was better than the 5-god tier, even though there was only a small piece on the piano that could not hold up the name. The Black Phoenix in the movie is already terrifying. It directly crushes Professor Charles into slag, and his consciousness can only be resurrected by his brother in the hospital. In the end, Logan was able to get close to stabbing in with his super regenerative ability, but he didn't know why he could stab to death like this. I hope it can be ranked according to the movie Black Phoenix, otherwise it won't be easy. After Sumo pondered for a while, he said flatly, "Don't worry, even if the antidote is injected, it won't work for a long time. Those people are just a joke." At the end of the movie, Magneto has gradually recovered, manipulating the international elephant flag. What uses this suppressant? As soon as the voice fell, everyone looked around and their faces were joyful. "Really?" Professor Charles asked quickly. "Of course it is true." Suemo still responded indifferently. Everyone didn't need to comfort them when they looked at their expressions. The heart fell when they mentioned the throat, so it was better. In this case, it will also give those boys a 0.8 level experience. Almert interjected and laughed, with a confident smile on his face. Even if the antidote will eventually fail, Magneto will declare war. We do not allow this and must stop him. Charles added, Magneto's confrontational behavior can be said to be very bad, which will directly wipe out the recent period of coming to the college. Positive impression made. What about the antidote? Laser Eye asked. Suemo spread his hands and smiled relaxedly, just grabbed it, and then destroyed the company. Skynet found the person who made the idea. After a pause, a chill flashed in his eyes, and he said, no matter who he is, there is only one result. Everyone seemed to have a cold knife on their necks, with cold sweat on their backs. Charles opened his mouth and made no sound. The ants plucked the tiger's whiskers, only to die. Chapter 175. Suemo, is the Hero Academia really going to work for the White House? Misaka Mikoto asked with interest when he saw Suemo returning home. She is very concerned about Twitter these past few days, and it is so noisy. Of course not. This time I just trampled on the table that was thrown off. Magneto and the White House will be losers. Suemo smiled and played kite at the corner of his mouth. Which way, will Lorna be embarrassed? Misaka Mikoto turned his head to Lorna, who was back with him, and asked with concern. Lorna is now at the Hero Academy, but her father is the opponent. Misaka Mikoto doesn't know how to console her in the drama of the father and daughter. This has nothing to do with father and daughter, it's just a standpoint. If it weren't for Suemo, I might be among the crowd resisting the antidote. Lorna suddenly sat on the sofa, turned on the TV, and continued, but my father really failed. Suemo heard this and said thoughtfully, it's Wanda and Pietro, I haven't seen them once. They went to the training ground desperately to stimulate their abilities, and it seemed that they were looking for their father to vent their hatred. The lives of the old people are really a failure, the friends are the opponents, the wives are dead, and the children are also on the opposite side, alive and well. But this is also the way he wants to go, even if he bites the bullet and walks on. This is what Suemo admires most. The lonely person is the Magneto, and it is impossible for anyone to go on. Hey? You seem to care about Wanda? Last time I heard Pietro said that you gave an ice rose. I haven't received it once in so long. Lorna moved over and leaned on Sumo's shoulder, with dangerous eyes coming from her eyes, and she spoke softly, slowly stroking her fierce mouth with her hand. Misaka Mikoto, who is holding the manga, snickered secretly. Seeing you, the pig's hoof and the radish, is overturning. Wait, Magneto is on TV. Suemo quickly changed the subject and mentioned Magneto, and Lorna looked at the TV subconsciously. Today's attack is only the first wave. As long as the antidote exists for one day, we will continue to fight. Your city is no longer safe, the streets are no longer safe, and you are no longer safe. Magneto was on the ruined street behind him on the TV, facing the camera with indifference, and declared to the world before the war, as for my fellow mutants, I invite you to join us, or don't get in the way. The ruins were the Washington branch of the Antidote Company, which was directly pushed by Magneto and then slipped away, preparing for a real battle. This declaration of war spread throughout the world, and the mutants were once again pushed to the top of hot debate. Lao Wang can really do it, and the Hero Academia will be done for nothing. Suemo believes that the White House will not use this incident to discredit the mutants and even the Hero Academia. Because there are a small number of heroes before joining, just like Lorna, who had to make small thefts all day long in order to make a living, even if they corrected it, it was a handle. Lorna looked at the spiked comments in the news with some worry, but Suemo held her hand warmly. Nothing will happen, trust me. Listening to these nasty words, Misaka Mikoto got goosebumps, and the watery Lorna made her extremely depressed. Did you forget the question you just asked? The problem has risen to the height of national security, and the president of the White House immediately summoned the female congressman to find a way to handle the entire incident. This matter is the proposal of the female congressman. The president, who is about to fall due to the mutant human body experiment, does not care about these things and just wants to go home and go home after he finishes his work. After careful consideration, the female congressman decided to close the research institute on Alcatraz Island. All the soldiers were equipped with antidote, and finally the war was officially launched. Since Magneto can manipulate metal, the soldiers are all equipped with plastic weapons, receive filled magazines loaded with antidote, and empty all the metal on their bodies at the same time. Advertisement: the streets of central cities such as New York and Washington in the United States suddenly became deadly. Soldiers patrolled the streets with full arms to prevent the second wave of Magneto attacks. In their opinion, Magneto will definitely make a second wave of offensive to provoke authority, terrorize the world and declare war. Even Sue Mo, Charles, and others think so, but in fact Magneto is unusual. Connecting California and the San Francisco Peninsula is one of the world-famous bridges, the Golden Gate Bridge. There was a lot of traffic here, and the stream was driving on the bridge. Suddenly, the bridge shook. Screws came up and down and the rain kept crashing. Everyone couldn't help but stop opening the doors. At this time, a large number of people walked slowly in front of them, most of whom looked strange and looked fierce, and the leader was Magneto. The crowded vehicles along the way suddenly moved sideways and piled up on both sides. Magneto led a group of mutants towards the middle of the bridge step by step. Some of these mutants were elite backbones of the Brotherhood. If they attacked together, they could completely destroy a city. These nearly 1,000 mutants exuded an aura of horror, and their frosty faces made others shudder. Magneto is now the headline celebrity. No one knows who does not know. When people see it, they are terrified, and their souls are frightened, and they rush to the other end in a panic. This posture isn't something you can watch and eat melons. Nearly 1,000 mutants just stood aside and shivered for fear of being killed. After pacing to one end of the bridge, Magneto stopped and looked at an isolated island on the sea level in the distance. That is Alcatraz, where the Antidote Company's experimental base and research institute is, also the source of the antidote, where the mutant Jimmy is imprisoned. Hey, human beings are really stupid. They think they have everything they want to disappear mutants. In the end, they can only reap the results. Magneto smiled indifferently to Alcatraz Island. Nearly 100 people walked out of the panic on the other side of the bridge, with their eyes wide open, red bloodshot eyes, and a strong smell of blood wafting in the air. Nearly 100 people walked out of the panic on the other side of the bridge, with their eyes wide open, red bloodshot eyes, and a strong smell of blood wafting in the air. The Magneto, your hatred of humans is beyond my expectation, but are you sure you won't be soft by that time? The devil-shaped Black Queen led the team to join Magneto, and laughed mockingly, the Hero Academy has your daughter, so it's not good to back down at that time. Magneto Wong heard this, a touch of anger flashed across his eyes, and said indifferently, take care of your own business. I can sacrifice everything for the mutant. As soon as the voice fell, he turned around and stood on the edge of the bridge with 2 steps, his right hand stretched out slowly. The bridge floor vibrated like 10,000 horses, and the 2 ends of the bridge broke directly, and the gravel fell into the water with a sound. I saw Magneto suddenly raised, the bridge did not fall but soared into the air, adjusting the direction vertically and moving towards the distant Alcatraz Island. The Black Queen didn't feel annoyed when she saw it, but showed a playful look. Hey, do you want to invite him into the group? The red devil with red skin and strange patterns imprinted on it flashed to the side of the Black Queen, and said with a chuckle. Let's talk about it afterwards. Magneto is not as simple as you imagined. The Black Queen murmured in a low voice that was inaudible by others. The guards of Alcatraz have been waiting for a long time, but never expected that the enemy's attack under military control would take the Golden Gate Bridge as the entry point. The sirens sounded and the soldiers shouted in horror, enemy attack. Even if the defenders are fully prepared, they are at a loss when facing the bridge floating in the sky. The world would never have thought that Magneto would attack Alcatraz Island with a bridge as a vehicle. Boom! The bridge fell heavily to connect to Alcatraz Island, and the crowds of mutants on the bridge stepped heavy steps into the ground as if giving orders. Advertisement: Magneto was the first to see that the defenders were already facing them. The weapons in his hand were beyond his control. He sneered with piercing eyes, plastic pistols? Little tricks. A female mutant stepped forward and murmured, he is in the southeast corner. Magneto has no expression on his face, and the source of the antidote is also to be obtained. In the future, the obstacle of the Hero Academy can be removed. Although plastic weapons can prevent magnetic control, they lose their robustness and become fragile. Seismic Girl, use the shock to aim their weapons. Magneto gave the order. Shocking Girl is a mutant previously recruited in folk churches, and her ability is shocking. A woman in a fishing net outfit came to the front, took a deep breath and faced the heavily armed holding a firearm containing inhibitors, raising her hands and suddenly clapping her hands at the same time. Boom! There was thunderous applause, the air in all directions shook suddenly, and the invisible shock wave swept away horizontally. Most of the soldiers' pistols in 443 shook and collapsed into fragments. After being struck by the strong current, they got up a little embarrassed but found that the magic weapon in their hands was gone. For a time, the defenders retreated in fear, and Magneto led the people forward step by step. They didn't know what to do without weapons. All attack! The Devil Girl raised her arms at this moment, shouting loudly to the mutants behind her. Help me! Monster, monster! Run, run! The first shot of the war was the red tank, and he rushed in like a crazy bull, like a bulldozer, no one can stand in front of him. After that, the mutants rushed out, and the defenders who lost their weapons were like chickens waiting to be sent to death under these various abilities. Calling to kill Zhentian, the mutants have no reason to be merciful, they slaughter the defenders madly, breaking through the lines of defense like a bamboo. At the combat headquarters in Washington, the Congresswoman herself did not expect it to be a one-sided crushing battle. The report of heavy casualties, slapped her face severely awakened her from her dreams. Plastic guns and antidote alone could not deal with mutants such as Magneto. Madam Congressman, it should be time for the sentry robot to appear. Bolivar mentioned beside him. Are you going to see if the people from the Hero Academy are here? The Congresswoman raised her hand to stop, and asked the monitor, her eyes flashing. At this time, she wanted to use a knife to kill people and then cross the river to tear down the bridge. It's a pity not now. No one of them was found around Alcatraz Island. This group of craps. Seeing that the Hero Academy was not fooled, the Congresswoman said angrily. Then he issued an order, let the sentry robot be dispatched. Seeing this, Bolivar smiled happily. However, they did not expect that unexpected guests would arrive at the headquarters base, and a pool of silver-gray water would slowly flow in 4 directions.
If you're enjoying the story so far and want to hear the next parts, don't forget to like the video. It really helps the channel grow. And if you'd like me to continue the series, drop a comment below letting me know. Your feedback and support keep these audiobooks going strong. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next one.